Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris. This is a show all about the week in comics. We are going to talk about comic book news. We're going to do some comic book reviews, including free comic book day stuff. It was kind of impressive seeing how a few of these free comics are actually going for a little bit on the secondary market. We'll talk about some of that in the news, too. But you guys may know I'm a really big fan of rhymes. So I was like, news, reviews, let's throw in interviews tonight. That's why I've got my little headphone in here. So I'll tell you about my guest in a moment. But first, a very brief opening monologue. This is all based on news that came out this last week. Let's let some people filter in, and I will tell you about this. So first of all, manga and media giant Kadokawa announced they have plans to open stores across America, new stores carrying manga and Japanese products. Yeah, fans are excited about getting exclusive Japanese merchandise, and American comic shops are excited to see what it's like for a comic to go past 6 issues. A nice delayed laugh track for that, because I'm a producer of one. This one was also interesting to me. So there was a comic book store in Colorado. We'll talk about this a little more later tonight, but they were selling their free comic book day books at the event. Now, admittedly, I'm no businessman, so maybe I'm wrong on this one. But if I had to guess what fans love the most about free comic book day, it might just be the fact that they're free. All right. You're very kind to have dealt with that. Looks like some people have filtered in. Let's get started with the show. We have a guest tonight, a writer who's been in the industry over 10 years now. You've probably read a bunch of his books because he's done plenty of work at Marvel and DC on big titles like X-Men and Punisher. He's also done an awful lot in the creator-owned space with a number of books at Image. We're going to talk to him about his upcoming book, If Destruction Be Our Lot. Please, folks, give a nice warm welcome to Mr. Matthew Rosenberg. Matthew, thank you for your patience and for joining us tonight.
Thank you for not having the laugh track when I entered.
Oh, okay. I was about to cue it, but fine. You cut me off.
I'm normally when I go onto a show, there is a laugh track. There's people actually laugh, and
But you don't know about it.
Yeah. There's always chuckles. They're like, this guy, huh? So it's nice when it doesn't happen. I appreciate it. I feel like, oh, maybe someone respects me.
I do. No, you'd reached out and shared with me the first issue of this comic, If Destruction Be Our Lot. And it was sincerely how interesting it was that I was like, oh yeah, I think I'd really enjoy getting to talk to Matthew about this book. Oh. Tell you what, before we go too far, I'll ask you a little bit about yourself and we'll dive deeper into the comic. But since this is, a shorter, interview, maybe you could tell the audience, what's the premise of If Destruction Be Our Lot?
Sure. If Destruction Be Our Lot is an ongoing sci-fi odyssey, to use that term loosely. It's about a world where humanity has gone extinct and robots have inherited the earth, and they are going about their routines pretty much content or even happy that we're no longer around to get in their way. All of them except for one robot, which is the animatronic Abraham Lincoln, who has escaped from a theme park. And he is convinced that he has a greater purpose in life, that there is some meaning to his existence. And so this is his journey to find his purpose, make a friend, and maybe accidentally save the world in the process.
Interesting. So in general, would this be a world where the robots have redefined their roles, or are they sort of purposeless? Like, what kind of a world would you say this is that Abraham Lincoln finds himself in? Robot Abraham Lincoln.
Robot Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. So no, the big thing is that they have not really redefined their roles. It's sort of a semantic hang up for Abe in the story, because the bus drives its route every day, but there's no one to get on it. The breakfast robot prepares food, but there's no one to eat it. To the robots, they feel like the human interaction, the human element is tangential to their purpose. The bus's purpose is to drive its route. If people get on, cool. If they don't, also cool. It does not feel like a failure that no one has gotten on the bus in 100 years. Abe's purpose is to educate and entertain, and he does not particularly know more than any other robots. Most of the robots have access to the internet and history, so they know the history of Abraham Lincoln, and they find him annoying, so he's not entertaining to them at all. So he is slightly less purposeful than the other ones. I think he would argue that they are all missing something, but they don't see it that way.
It's an interesting idea in our world. Like, AI is being used more and more to generate, but is it really generating? And or does true purpose and idea come from people?
Sure.
Obviously, you can play with that because these are characters and stuff, but it creates an interesting world. Is this version of Abraham Lincoln, when you're writing him with your brother, by the way, if you want to, but when you guys are writing Robot Abraham Lincoln, did you try to make him talk in the voice of actual Abraham Lincoln, or is that just a piece of him?
It's just a piece of him. We went back and forth. There was a time my brother was very into having him. There was a very early version where my brother said he's only going to speak in Abraham Lincoln quotes. And I was like, that is a research nightmare. It is a scripting nightmare, and it will be unpleasant. And I won that out. But what he actually is, he doesn't think he's Lincoln. He knows that he's a robot version of Lincoln. So he lapses into Lincoln quotes a lot, like speeches and talks like Lincoln. But he's very aware that he's not. And he has a very sort of dated verbiage. He has a very, dated way of speaking, but he doesn't exactly talk like Lincoln, and he doesn't try to exactly.
And I thought it was interesting. It seems as though he doesn't quite fit in, even though he's a robot, because this is a world where robots can look like just about anything, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't have to be humanoid. They don't have to be anything. It depends on their purpose or intended purpose.
Yeah, he's the only one that looks like a human left.
Yeah.
And so he is this
stands
weird,
out.
Yeah, he's this weird. He's not a human, and he knows that, but he thinks about them a lot and sort of opines for them, which the other robots do not. And he's also not a human. So he's sort of this caught between these two worlds. He's not, the robots don't like him because he reminds them of a thing they don't like, and they feel like he's pretending to be a thing he's not. Yeah. And he doesn't fit into any sort of human world because there isn't one left. So he's really a man out of time and place in this very sort of tragic way. And also because he thinks he's from the 1800s, sort of.
Sort of, yeah. But I was listening to an interview you just did with Sketched, and if folks are intrigued by this, they did like about an hour and a half deep dive into Matthew's career in this book, a lot deeper than we're going. One thing I found fascinating that you revealed there was that you and your brother had different ideas of who the main character would be. It was not Abraham Lincoln from the beginning, correct?
So sort of. It was Abraham Lincoln from the beginning, because that was the first idea I came up with, was just this sort of idea of the animatronic Abraham Lincoln wandering a world without people. But there was no story. And once we got into the story, we had this complicated problem that I've never experienced before, which is that Abraham Lincoln is such a known figure, especially in American culture. He's such a mythic figure. He's such a, like, we could have made it a different president and no one would really have any thoughts about them. But if we said it was,
you don't think Buchanan or Millard Fillmore would really excite the audience?
I don't think people are gonna see Taft and be like, oh, it's this is
there's not enough movies about Pierce.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Lincoln comes with all these things, but not only do people recognize him, but like they know a lot about him. Like, they know about the Civil War, they know about emancipation, they know about, people know a lot about his personal life, his marriage, and his family, his death, all these things. But more than that, like, they know about these things that, Honest Abe. People talk about Honest Abe. They know that he was a person who really carried the weight of the division of the country on his back. He really felt a great empathy for people, and a great darkness with the war. He really felt like the weight of that on him. And so we ended up with this problem of having a character who comes with all this metaphor and baggage attached to him before we started the book.
Yeah.
And that is really a weird problem to have. And so we spent a long time, months and months, trying to figure out how to remove the metaphor. And the obvious answer was, don't make it Abe Lincoln. And so, we spent months shooting emails, me and my brother Andy, of different people it could be. Everyone from real life current people to historical figures to fictional figures to non-existent, our own creations. There was just hundreds, maybe 1,000 different names thrown about, and no one worked quite the same.
I heard you mention in the sketched interview Mr. Met at one point, but would that have ever been something you guys could have found a way to actually like put on covers and stuff like that?
No, we would have gotten sued to death, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of the early thing was, we were like, well, let's not worry about the legality. Let's try and figure out what's the most interesting idea. Yeah, what works best for us, and then we'll figure out if there's a way to do it anyway. And luckily, Abraham Lincoln is public domain, so he worked best, and we were happy when we found out that we don't need to get anyone to sign a copyright lease or anything like that.
The estate of Lincoln didn't come after you right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because people immediately think, when they see animatronic Abraham Lincoln, of the animatronic Abraham Lincoln from the Hall of Presidents in Disney World, and we were very quick to be like, he's not that Abraham Lincoln. He's a different Lincoln from a different theme park, which is a thing that could happen.
Theoretically. Hey, this is in the future. Who knows what the future may hold?
We there was a joke that we did very early on that we abandoned, but we wanted to show where he was from. And I thought, in the future, people will care so little about the presidency that they will be putting other people in the Hall of Presidents, and we would make it the Hall of Presidents and Rappers. And so it'd be Lincoln and all these famous rappers.
Oh, right, because you at one point even considered like Tupac, right? As
Tupac
like
was in there. Yeah. That was from the same thing of like, wouldn't it be amazing if at the end of the book he shows up and he looks up and it's the Hall of Presidents and Rappers, and he goes in and you're expecting to see George Washington and whoever, Andrew Jefferson, and it's like Tupac and Biggie and Kendrick Lamar. And we thought that was the funniest thing, but then we were like, we're not going to do that. But it definitely was discussed.
You have, especially with your Image comics, some really evocative titles, right? Like kind of like long titles, and this one is no exception. This, let me add it back. If Destruction Be Our Lot.
Yes.
What an interesting title for people who may not know. Let me just talk real quick, and I'll hand the floor back to you. But I find Lincoln's Lyceum address a fascinating speech. This is where he said, folks, if destruction be our lot. Everybody knows the Gettysburg Address, but if destruction be our lot was a 28-year-old Lincoln talking about how America would not be destroyed by outside forces. It was only, if it was going to be destroyed, it would come from within. By people that disrespected the rule of law, which Lincoln had a lot of respect for, of course, as a lawyer. It's a fascinating speech, very poetic, really. More poetic than just about anything else he wrote, in my opinion. But at what point did you decide that was something that was going to be relevant to the story, now that I've given my viewers just a tiny bit of background on the speech?
Sure, yeah. The Lyceum Address is, yes, it's I would argue maybe his best speech.
Yeah.
It's the speech that sort of put him on the national stage. It's his first speech that was sort of reprinted in national outlets, papers, and whatnot. It's a very powerful speech, and I love it. idea of using the speech, we went over a lot of his quotes and a lot of titles, and also a lot of stuff that wasn't his speeches. We were going back and forth on whether we wanted a Lincoln quote. And we went back, we kept being like, well, he's one of the great speechwriters and orators of the English language, so it seems weird to not give him the floor on a book about him. But we did definitely play with it. The book, as we went, like discussing what we were talking about before of the metaphor and the inherent metaphor, I think that some of the stuff we play with in the book, and I say this, I will say the caveat beforehand that the book is jokes and is funny and has humor and heart in it, but it also deals with the idea of loneliness and isolation. Okay. And that's something that we spent a lot of time sort of thinking and ruminating on. And the loneliness that Lincoln feels is not a loneliness because he's not around anyone else. It's a loneliness because he has no connection to the people around him or the robots around him. And
that's a real thing that I think we can all relate to at some point in our day.
100%. I think so much in fiction you see loneliness portrayed as a person in the woods or a person in a desert. And I think as someone who grew up in New York City, I see a lot of loneliness every day on crowded streets.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a very real thing that is a very real problem. I think most of the problems we face in the 21st century, late 20th century, can be chalked up to a very simple idea. And that idea is that it is profitable and beneficial for a few people to separate people, divide people, and isolate people. I think that there are a lot of industries built on making us not connect to our neighbors, not feel like part of a community, not have empathy with people who are not having exactly the same experiences with us. And Lincoln's Lyceum address, to me, is in a very real way almost about that as well. It's about this idea. He holds this idea of democracy to be so important, a God-given idea to us, that we will protect each other and be a community that knows what's best for itself. We will govern ourselves because obviously you care about your neighbor, you care about the person you don't know, and you're going to vote and do what you can to take care of them.
Yeah, it's a beautiful idea.
It's a beautiful idea. It's the basis of democracy, that the mass population will work to the benefit of those who need it.
Right.
I think we are seeing right now around the world, and we do from time to time, that is not always going to be the way. No. That there are people who are selling the idea of divisions, turning people against each other. And I don't want to be hyperbolic and I don't want to get too political on it, but we're in a very divided time in this country. The similar type of divide that Lincoln was seeing and talking about. And I think a lot of that is because people don't have empathy. And whether you're talking about empathy of people who are coming here as refugees, or empathy of people who live halfway around the world and we view them as enemies for whatever reason, or empathy to just people in a different part of the country that you live in, I think we have a really hard time doing those things. And it is challenging the fabric of democracy. Like, I think wherever you land on the political spectrum, you would be hard pressed to say that the tenets of democracy are not currently being attacked. And I think a lot of that essentially boils down to loneliness and isolation. And so that was what Lincoln talked about. That's what our Lincoln is dealing with. That's the connective tissue for me.
That makes sense. I think that's sometimes when stories work best is when you can just find that element that connects us, that thing that tells what the human condition is. And sometimes that's feeling lonely, even if you're surrounded by people. The idea to transport it onto, a science fiction setting where you can also have a breakfast making robot is a lot of fun. It keeps it from getting too serious.
Yeah. We have the heavy metaphors about loneliness and isolation and community, but also we have Lincoln gets hit in the head with a wrench and it's funny.
Right.
We do both. We try and do both.
And I understand that you and artist Andy McDonald and your brother, the whole creative team, I should say, you've been working on this for a while, right? To get ahead and like be able to have like a lot of issues just in the can at this point.
Yeah, we've been working on it. I say when we started working on it, and it sounds crazier than it is. In some form or another, we've been working on it for 6 years. That does not mean that it's been a full-time job for any of us, anything even close to a full-time job. But it has been an idea that we've all been excited about for 6 years. But it has been a full-time job for us for a while. We're actually, I mean, I don't know. I tell this, and people who don't know how comics are made, it doesn't sound like anything. But normally a comic, especially an indie comic where there's not a big corporation backing it and funding it, you're usually like 2 or 3 issues ahead. So when issue 1 is out, you're working on issue 4, maybe. Yeah. We're on issue, Andy's drawn issue 11 and we're writing issue 13 now.
That's incredible.
We're in the 3rd trade paperback. So we're in our 2nd year of the book for a lot of different reasons. But yeah.
I wanted to mention that because honestly, to me, that really shows a confidence in the idea on you guys' part. You've been doing comics for a long time. You do know, you understand the risks as well as anyone. But to make that commitment, you're like, yes, I believe in this idea. I'm going to fund this idea, and we're going to just, obviously hope that it catches on. To be fair, I do see a lot of smart people in the industry trying to do this when they can afford to. I think Robert Kirkman has been doing this with a lot of his books, like at least a year and a half ahead. Rick Remender. I know for a fact that he does stuff well in advance. I'm trying to think. There's some other guys that I can mention, but Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They wait until they've got 6 issues essentially and put it out as a hardcover. It's amazing, but it's a risk because we're built in an environment to get sort of like a monthly income stream, and so I just want to say, like, it's really impressive that you guys have been working on this for so long.
Yeah, I mean, you said
it's a real confidence.
You said confidence.
I think so.
The other answer to that is an incredible amount of hubris, but
maybe
either way, my feeling is I've been very fortunate in my career, and DC took really good care of me, and my indie books have been done well enough that I can.
That's great.
People show up, whether it's because my name's on it or in spite of it. I'm very appreciative, and it's allowed me to take risks. Is it a smart business decision to work this far ahead? No. Is it creatively smart? Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. You're committing.
We're committing. We're making a more interesting and better book. That is a big part of it, is that we are trying to take that time, not to just work at the same pace, but like we're rearranging things and changing things as they go, which isn't a luxury you'd have. When you write in issue 7, you can't be like, actually, this character should appear in the first issue, because the first issue is already bagged and boarded and in people's long boxes by that point. But it also means that Andy and Francesco and those guys are taking the time to be like, well, I want to actually take 2 pages on this, or I want to take a day and design this character and not just design them on the page as I go. And I think people will, as they go and see the book, will see it. Andy said a thing to me very early on when we talked about this model. I said, like, look, I'm just going to finance this. I have some money in the bank, and it's not a good business decision, but if I was into good business decisions, I wouldn't be a comic creator. I want to make cool comics, so it's a cool comic making decision. Yeah. And he said something which really clicked with me. He said, so many comics, and we both understood why when he said it. He said, so many comics are front loaded. They want to sell, like, the first issue is often the pitch that they pitched a publisher on. It's got all the big ideas. It's where the most readers will be. Your first issue sells the best. The artist team takes the longest on it. They put the most bang into the first issue. And he said, and I get that. And I said, yeah. And he said, but it means that you get this dwindling thing in a book. You find out at the end of the first issue what's supposed to happen. And then for the next 4 issues, 5 issues, it's just that happening. And he challenged me and himself to say, let's not do that. Let's try and make this book change and evolve and be bigger and crazier and better as it goes. And so that's our goal.
Got some questions about that.
Yes.
Like, first, some kind of little ones with a bigger follow up. But first of all, this is like something like 48 pages, right? For
Yes.
the first issue.
Yeah.
I think that's smart. It allows you to get a little bit more of that pilot, a lot of that, some of that setup out in front of an audience instead of having to divide some of that groundwork.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is still just going to be $4.99 this week when it comes out, right?
Yes, it's $4.99, which is,
these days pretty good value.
The price of a Marvel book. Yeah,
I had a second piece to it, and that is, so you've got a really big idea here. I think we've established a little bit of that. Second small question, is this intended to be an ongoing for now?
Yeah.
Okay. So my final part to tie all this in, your brother hasn't worked in comics before. He's a filmmaker. He's a director and writes screenplays and stuff like that. How much when you guys were coming up with this idea, I assume at some point you may have considered it as a movie or something. Mm-hmm. What made you say, no, the medium where it will work is going to be a comic book?
So that's actually complicated.
Okay.
We wanted to make something together. He wanted to make a movie and I wanted to make a comic. I love movies, but I think comics, I prefer the medium of comics. I think comics is a better medium. Yes. He likes comics, but prefers movies or television. He thinks it's a better medium. So we went back and forth. I won that argument, probably because I was writing the checks, but I did. So, that was it. That was the end of it to a degree. What ended up happening, though, was very early on, we had this idea that I would be more taking the reins on the comic, and he would simultaneously be writing an adaptation, like a screenplay of it. And we would sort of work in tandem. And that was the initial idea, was to like have it come out and have a screenplay ready. And what we ended up doing a lot was talking, and this is years ago, we ended up talking a lot about how to do it. My brother is a very good director and has made film and TV, but he's not someone that anyone is going to give a $150-200 million movie to. He just doesn't have the resume to get that right now. As
he's building to that,
as happens. Yeah, you build up to that. He's done a $5 million movie or whatever. And so we were talking about scaling the book to be a version that could easily translate to a still sci-fi and still these ideas, but have it be scaled to a filmable movie, to an attainable goal. And so that was an early version of just like, well, how could the world building be smaller, and how could we do these things? And we had all these stylistic ideas and notes that I think were really cool, and I really was in favor of. And then I just hit a point. We hit a point where he was getting pulled more into writing the comic, and I was like, yeah, just write the comic and we'll both do the screenplay later, or you can do it without me or whatever. And so we came on, and then when we were all making the comic, I just said, like, look, the value we have in comics is that it costs the same to blow up the earth as it does to have two people have drinks at a coffee shop. Like it's literally just what you pay.
I'm sure Andy, the artist, loved hearing that. He's like, well, it takes me a little more time.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it probably takes him more time to draw the coffee shop.
Fair.
But there's not a lot of stuff in space to draw.
I get it. And to your point, yes. Like, drawing is not the same as scaling it up with, CG team to like come up with 50 different robots for one scene.
100%. And I said, we're sort of tying our hands here on this project for the potential of another project. And I said, that's just stupid creatively. Like, let's make this as big and crazy as we want, and then figure out the version of it that's scalable, that you could make in a $30 million movie or a TV series.
Right.
And so that is how it stepped away from being more of a being in two mediums. It's sort of we want to go back and talk about it for film and TV. I'm sure we will. But
then you'd be starting a little bit fresh and saying, how do we make it for that medium?
Yes.
You
Yes.
decided we are going to make it for the medium of comics first.
Yes, 100%. Which is, I think there's a thing, not to speak ill of other mediums. There's a real lack of vision in some of the Hollywood people I talk to sometimes, where they go, well, this is a period piece and that's expensive. And I go, so write the screenplay not as a period piece, or like, this is this. I think people very much see a comic and think it's a storyboard, and they're like, oh, well, this would be expensive. And
yeah.
Those are people without vision. Those are people who maybe shouldn't be in creative roles, who can't understand that different mediums work different ways and you can adapt.
Shots fired.
Well, whatever.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I think because we love comics, we see, look, you can do cinematic stuff. It's a visual medium.
Yeah.
But you can get internal as well. Just like you can with like a novel or something like that. You can like really understand a character so well. Yeah. And it forces you to be efficient too. It forces you to be efficient and with a scene and with dialogue.
Yeah. It's a very I love comics because of the guardrails, because how much you can put on a page, how much you can put in an issue, like all those things force you to be a tighter writer, which I think is always good. I think the most important skill in writing is editing, is self-editing, is knowing what to cut. And comics is throwing you in the deep end of the pool of that. If I think a lot of people, if you put them down to write a novel, put them in front of a computer to write a novel, they're going to meander and wander in ways that are not healthy and not. Comics makes you distill everything to what is essential to making me love this story and love these characters and understand this world. And that's a great skill set to have.
I think it sounds really exciting. I just want to point out to people again that it comes out this Wednesday in comic book stores. If Destruction Be Our Lot, Rosenberg, McDonald, and you guys, the colorist and the letterer was who again?
Francesco Segala is our colorist, who's amazing. By issue 3, he's doing things that I think I don't put a lot of value in awards for arts, but I think if they're going to give awards for coloring, like he is definitely.
He's very good.
Should be in the conversation. And Hassan Otsmain Elhau is our letterer, who is the best in the business.
No question. Congratulations on assembling this team. I'm excited. I really hope that my audience considers checking it out this week. And thank you for giving us some insight into your creative process and in this book specifically. I really appreciate it, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, have a great night, and thank you very much again.
Yeah, take care.
You too. Take care. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. I think that this book has a lot to offer, where it's funny. It does have some action. I wasn't trying to give away everything with like the few pages that I was sharing there. But it does have action, it does have humor, and it sincerely has some big ideas at its center, which I think makes it very valuable these days. Big ideas count for an awful lot in comics. Thank you all for watching. Hold on, I just paused myself, didn't I? There we go. Excuse me. And I wanted to acknowledge, thank you, Sigma Comics, just returning from a long convention trip, El Paso, all the way from New York. Such a great treat to come home to your show. Thank you so much, Sigma. I really appreciate the kind words and the support. That's amazing. I hope you had a great trip. Sounds awesome. I hope you got some really great food. It really sounds interesting to me, Mike, and the world seems very big with what he can explore, with what's set up in the first issue. So that was a lot of fun. But we have a big show tonight, so let me just double check. Yep, okay. Tell you what, let's switch to the next segment of the night. I'm going to set up the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi, guys. This is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
Sorry, コーヒーを飲みましょう. All right, let's get into the news. Let me rejigger my layout just a little bit here, and here we go. First up, don't know how many of you guys got to see this, but Marvel was not at all subtle about what they are doing in Spider-Man. Hey, Steve, don't know if you caught that. That was a fellow New Yorker that I just had, Matthew Rosenberg, and he did at one point consider having Mr. Met as the main character in the book. So if you didn't catch it all, I think you in particular might want to rewind and watch that at some point. Anyway, thank you for the support. Thank you. I love that people know to tell Steve because they all know that he's a fan of the Mets. Oh, you don't have to rewind, Mike. For you, I'll do it again. Or I could say that I made a coffee. It's not quite as memorable. All right, let me jump into this Spider-Man news. So, Marvel has teased what their big plan is for the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man number 1000. That's a huge number. That is a number that, you don't come across every day. But apparently they're coming up on 1,000 issues. Who knows how they number things when they restart it all. I know you hate it, Jeannie. That's my sister. A lot of people love it. Anyway, so here's their big plan. It isn't like a new story arc where, Spider-Man starts a new chapter in his life with like a new job or a new direction or gets a brand new big enemy that seems, interesting. No, it's a secret family member. We're leaning into the soap opera stuff. We're leaning into this. So specifically, Marvel posted these panels this week to their social media accounts. They also had this in their free or comics giveaway day, as they call it, book. And here's what it implies. Oh, you were there. Thank you for the support. Exactly. It's hard to consider how you get to 1,000, but somebody I think has a job doing that. And ChemDog, I'll get to your point. So this is stuff that Marvel has shared because they're trying to excite people. What is it? It's a secret family member. Apparently, a man that is currently known only as Mr. Crane, he's done like a DNA test and he's found out that he is he's biologically related to someone with the last name Parker. If you're not reading the book, the reason he even looked into this is there's a villain out there. And I kind of like the idea of this villain, Torment, that like they see it's a serial killer villain that like sees things in a spiral and they try to kill off family members from like most distant to like then finally finishing off their enemy. And in this case, they're trying to kill off people related to Peter Parker, however distantly. And so like when Peter saved this guy, he and heard that was what Torment was doing, he decided to do a DNA test. Okay. I like this. Yes, the twist is that Thor is Peter's dad. I would do that. Anyway, he's likely a cousin if they're going to say the last name is Parker. Because I don't think, I don't know. Parker was the name of what? The two brothers, right? Richard and Ben, Uncle Ben, and Peter's father is Richard, correct? And the only other one that would have the last name Parker would be if May was already married to him, like May Parker. So I don't know. Fan reactions, I would say, are kind of muted. Because Marvel already sort of tried this and then bailed on it. Back in 2016, they introduced the idea that Peter had a biological sister, that Richard and Mary Parker had another kid that was given up for adoption instead of given to Uncle Ben and Aunt May. But they kind of bailed on that idea, and they haven't used her since 2021. One of the writers also introduced plenty of doubt as to whether she actually was the biological daughter. Like Chameleon had this whole thing like, oh, who knows? You might be, just the daughter of some people pretending to be Mary and Richard Parker. You're like, what? Oh my God. But yeah, exactly. You forgot about Teresa because Marvel didn't commit to the idea, which this is not that different. I mean, obviously, Mr. Crane may have a different set of motivations and a different, personality than Teresa, but the idea of giving Peter a new family member, a secret family member, I'm not against the soap opera-ness of it, but to have that be the big thing of issue 1000, I'm not convinced that's a great idea because Marvel's already tried something a little similar and kind of bailed on it. It didn't really go anywhere. Well, you say recent, but wasn't that 2021 that came out? Like, that's like 5 years ago, if I'm remembering right. Anyway, that's what they seem to be building up to. Maybe there's a twist. Maybe there's something very interesting about Mr. Crane. I don't know. But to lean into the soap opera elements and sort of have it be like something that they've done before, it just isn't that exciting to me. Another small piece of Marvel news that I was kind of surprised by is that there's a place called Luminate, which tracks streaming numbers. I don't quite understand their methodology, to be fair, but whatever it is, presumably it's consistent with season 1 and season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. And what they've seen is that season 2's viewership is actually way down from season 1. And I got to say, I really like season 2. I like it a lot. But Daredevil Born Again season 2, just ballpark, like try to keep this in mind. They've got 4.5 million views for the season, and then they've got like they track these things by hours and minutes. Okay, whatever. Just you can look at these numbers. But here's the numbers for season 1. Almost twice. This is down. I want to say something like 60%, which is just wild. But I think what that would indicate is, well, actually, let me give one more piece of data before I give what I think it will be. And let me acknowledge this real quick. By the way, Eric Carle, our author of Hungry Caterpillar, I'm Always Hungry, and other children's books, was born in Syracuse, New York. You are a good mascot for New York. You are a good mascot. It's an interesting idea. Is it like due to price increases? I don't think that the amount of people subscribing has necessarily, I've seen no data to indicate that has gone down significantly. To be clear, the number of people that use Disney Plus, similar to something like Paramount Plus or something. Anyway, most of these things, Apple, it's nowhere close to Netflix. Netflix dwarfs even like HBO Max and Hulu and stuff. It's just massive. But here's my last data point. Critical reviews are actually up. Although fairly close. Season 1 had an average of 87% positive on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a very high number for a show like this. Season 2, 89%. That was what I got from today. So if the critical reaction is slightly more positive for season 2, but the viewership is significantly down, and we're not saying that there's anything happening with the actual platform itself, I would say a lot of people watched season 1 and just were underwhelmed with it. And so they haven't bothered to watch it. I'll give this one caveat. Not everybody watches streaming right away. Some, like this is coming out weekly. What if we looked at this data in one more month when the whole season is out? Maybe some people are planning on binging it. I just want to put that out there as a possibility. I don't know. But that is a significant drop. I would say don't let that intimidate you from watching it if you haven't tried it already. I think it's pretty darn cool. I don't know if it's flawless or anything, or even honestly the best thing that Disney Plus has done. It's far from the worst. That would definitely be Secret Invasion, hands down. Secret Invasion was garbage. You'd have my vote if I could vote in New York. Yes, you should run for governor. You seem like a positive person. Anyway, that's just something I wanted to share, is that the viewership is way down for season 2. I don't think season 2 is at all bad. I think it's really pretty darn good. That's true. A lot of people did say that they were dumping Disney, but we don't actually have any data that it was like, that it actually really happened, or that it happened and people didn't go back. So I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people saying that people canceled Disney Plus when ABC temporarily fired Jimmy Kimmel, like bowing to political pressures. I don't know. Yeah, I always appreciate a like. That helps the channel a lot. If you've got 2 seconds to just hit that like button, I'd appreciate it. No, I didn't see that Owen was planning on doing that. I feel like I've looked at it and I haven't figured out a way to crack. Excuse me, I hiccuped. I haven't figured out a way to crack making that interesting because it's just so depressing to me. But that good for Owen. Oh, a follow-up from a piece of news from last week. I think it's positive news. So last week I reported on how the crowdfunded art book for George Pratt, who's done a lot of comic book work, seemed to be falling apart last minute because Pratt, the artist, and the publisher, Joel Meadows, were basically having this public spat all of a sudden, each accusing the other of misappropriating funds that were gathered for the Kickstarter. But things have turned around this week. Pratt wired the $20,000 that he had been paid for this. He had he wired the $20,000 back to the publisher so that they could do the refunds they said they were being held up on doing. They were like, oh, well, Pratt demanded, 40% of the money or something. So, there's nothing we can do yet. Well, he wired it back. And so now the publisher's like, well, then we can probably actually publish the book after all, which I hope for the people that supported it happens. Look at these gorgeous pieces of Sandman and Wolverine. Just awesome. Great artist. Anyway, publisher Joel Meadows says that if Pratt sends the high-res images, they can definitely print the book. The only thing that's weird is I went to the Kickstarter to see updates and see comments and stuff to try to understand more for this news story. And like every comment from the last week is just showing as deleted, which makes, any real clarification or transparency on this project very confusing. I hope for everybody's sake that it does happen. Good luck. That was definitely disappointing. It would not be where I would cut people, but Disney as a business says that they needed to make, cuts. So I don't know. I'm not going to read that because to me, I know they've said that it isn't, but to me, it looks like they use generative AI in the art. So I don't want to read that. Moving on. This one kind of cracks me up, folks. Let me share. So, a group of thieves, I believe 3 people, was caught within hours, something like within 16 hours of breaking into a Houston comic book store. This is them breaking in. This is them getting arrested. The burglars were caught on security cameras stealing over $4,000 worth of comics. I saw one report that claimed $10,000. I don't know which is accurate because they didn't have a full listing of the books. But a lot of comics, graded comics too, were stolen from Texas Time Warp Collectibles in the Houston area. The owner of Time Warp posted the video, the security camera video of the people stealing, and he notified people in the area. He's like, hey, here are some of the books that I had stolen. Here are images of the books. Here's the video. Just be on the lookout. But I don't think they expected things to happen this fast. The owner of the Comic Vault, another comic book store, was contacted the very next morning by someone offering to sell comics. The list of them sounded familiar because he'd read the post. He asked for photos, And after the photos were shared, he was like, yeah, that's the same serial number, for instance, on this graded copy of Spawn. So he's like, yeah, I'll buy them. Come on in. And of course, the police were waiting. 3 people were arrested. 2 trying to sell the comics. Quiet, Jackie. 2 trying to sell the comics. And a 3rd, alleged to be a getaway driver, was hanging out at apparently a nearby burger place. The district attorney has accepted felony theft charges against the 2 that were arrested. The 3rd suspect is charged with failure to identify. Exactly right, Mike. The community came together and just like, they were like, I'm Batman, and solved it. That's really cool. Yeah. Bad news, the comic industry is small. Good news, the comic industry is very small. My buddy Ken's in that movie, so I like that one. Anyway, yeah, this is one case where slabbing the comics worked because it had a serial number. So anyway, I just think that's kind of funny that, like, these people were like, okay, we stole it today, we're going to sell it tomorrow, and no one's going to notice. Not great. It is interesting that they sort of knew what they were going for and that it was comics, I don't know. Let's see. Believe it or not, that's how my old bookstore caught a bunch of thieves too. Nice. I just got a kick out of how fast they got themselves caught. Let's talk about what I put in the thumbnail. So this weekend was, of course, Free Comic Book Day. And one of the most in-demand comics was definitely this, the first physical publication of Dungeon Crawler Carl in comic book format. Now, to be clear, and I'll talk about this more in my review later, this has been created as a webtoon, and it's being collected into a massive trade paperback or omnibus, whatever you want to call it. And but here you get like the first 20 some pages, okay? And this is a very popular book series right now, I guess. I'll have to check it out at some point because it really seems like it's exploding in popularity. And I love hearing that it was like originally like basically self-published. I think that that's really cool that like the person got it started on their own. But one store was selling it right away. I think we're used to seeing some of these Free Comic Book Day things get sold online, or especially the day after, maybe that same day, and who knows where they came from. And I think that that's fair, but the event is called either Free Comic Book Day or Comics Giveaway Day. So what's the spirit of it? Well, comic readers are somewhat divided on this, somewhat. There's definitely more that feel one way, but there is a debate here going on social media, like Reddit and stuff like that. Hall of Justice Comics in Parker, Colorado, was at the event selling Dungeon Crawler Carl for $10. Which is a lot for a 22-page comic. $10, or you could get it free if you spent $50 at the store. Now, there's no specific rules from what I read on the FAQ for Free Comic Book Day, other than the spirit of it is to give away free comics to bring people in. And hopefully those people buy things and stay readers. You're introducing new readers. Obviously, it's a promotional event. To be clear, the comic book store owners don't get these for free. It's not a lot compared to other comics, but they do pay for them, okay? So when we say free, it's basically free for the people coming into the store, not for the store itself. It's a promotional thing. Anyway, the goal that everything I read on the FAQ for Free Comic Book Day just said, that it's designed to be a giveaway, but it's up to the store if they want to place limits on how many free comics you get or how that works, okay? But there's no rules that I read that said, and there's certainly nothing legally that would stop you from selling them after the event or online. There's nothing legally that would stop you. This specific book was easily going for $20 a pop the day of. I'll show you an image of it in a minute, but like eBay, no question, easily like $20, people would pay for it. And hey, I get that if that's the market. The market is going to dictate a value for this. Some people can't get to a store, don't have a store that's doing free comic book day. But what is the event called? Without being able to figure out the percentage, what I'll say is that the majority of people posting, which might not be the majority of readers, but the majority of people posting seem to find it against the spirit of the event to charge for the comic the day of. I'll tell you that I wouldn't go to the store if that's what they were doing to me. I don't feel that that's fun. It's against the spirit of it. And they can do what they want. I'm not saying they can't. Here was like a post, like where they replied to someone saying like, hey, you guys are selling the free comic. And they're like, you realize that we have to buy all of the comics to give away for free on this day, right? But then people like kind of at this point, they go, you chose to participate. It's like, you don't have to buy those things if it's such a bad deal. None of your shops, I understand it went away pretty fast. It went away pretty damn fast. Hall of Justice was my old store, but that's trashy. I'll no longer go there. I'm not trying to like throw them under the rug. They might have had some other promotion that balanced it out. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. This is all I know. I don't think it's the right way to go about Free Comic Book Day. Here's just like, day of, this was sold May 2nd for $20. Tons of examples of that. And then there are, some variant covers for this Free Comic Book Day that like, if a store ordered a certain amount, they could get a variant cover or have a remark by an artist. And those can be going for like literally hundreds of dollars now. Hundreds of dollars. I would say that's ultimately the most fair way to look at it. It's their choice to sell the books. It can be the reader's choice not to shop there. I don't know. Yeah, I'm such a jerk. I had such a jerk. It's got a lot of hype for it. My LCS had a fat stack. I mean, if they're still giving them away and, like in your area, it's not as in demand, I don't think at this point it's bad to flip it. I think after the day, whether the store wants to or a reader wants to, it's just this. I would say if you wanted to flip it, don't even put them out for Free Comic Book Day and say like, it's $10. Just order them and sell them online or something. And I think that, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I do think that you have to put limits on it, though. It would be so mean if people went into a store on Free Comic Book Day and there were some kids that were kind of like into, actually, I don't think that this is really aimed at kids necessarily because it's kind of violent. But, teenagers or something. Say there was like a 13-year-old that's really into Dungeon Crawler Carl, maybe younger, I don't know. And they just wanted to get a free copy, but like the store allowed you to take unlimited amounts and like, some guy ahead of them just grabbed a stack, like the whole stack and went to like flip it. That's wrong. You have to place limits. Totally okay with that. Totally okay with that. But I don't feel like the store should be doing it. I really don't. Ultimately, I do come down on thinking, set a limit to how many books you can get and certainly only like one copy of each book. But if you don't want to give it away for free, don't charge for it the day of. Like charge for it the day after, or sell it online. But that's just me. That's just me. I understand that a couple books disappeared. One encouraging thing I heard was that the Garfield comic at some stores sold out very quickly, which indicates to me that there are some younger readers going to at least Free Comic Book Day, if not the comic book stores right now. Yeah. You're going to just put your grandson through college. Eternally grateful that my LCS is Things from Another World. Oh, yeah. They're great. They're great. Anyway, it was a thing that happened. Some people are like, hey, you should be able to do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to, but I'm saying because of the spirit of the event, I think it's only reasonable to assume that a lot of people are going to have a reaction going like, what are you doing here? Look at that. This person saying Garfield was gone by that afternoon. So that fascinated me. I would say in the last 2 years, the most popular one has been Energon Universe, because this is legit a full free comic, not just like a preview of something. And then they do sell it at like they'll release this week, I think, a $4.99 version of it. But if you went on Comic Book Day, you get it for free. And I think that's a great, great book. A lot of the free Comic Book Day stuff I don't end up like loving because it's just sort of a tease, which I get, but I also don't feel is that interesting or engaging. I need more than a little tease. Lamest news of free Comic Book Day, stores selling it. I've liked Conan in the past. This one felt like a little small to me, but not a bad comic, just too little of it. I'm going to move on, though. I don't want to focus on negative stuff. This is just more of a public service announcement for, friend of the channel, Danny Earls. So Danny Earls, not just a great artist, but like just a sincerely wonderful human being. He posted the 2 recent pieces of art that he shipped to his art rep are missing. Specifically, the 2 that you see here. Now, they still don't know if maybe FedEx has just lost track of it, okay? FedEx is still looking into this. Not great, but ideally they find it. Ideally. But there is a small chance that it could have been stolen during shipping. So I'm putting it out there, just sharing it to a wider audience. If you saw either his massive Gotham City piece or his Absolute Batman cover, the original art for this, if you saw it for sale as original art, tell Felix Comic Art or Danny Earls, because that would be stolen. Hopefully that's not the case, but let's share it and we'll all just keep our eyes out, keep our eyes peeled. And if we happen to come across it, maybe we could help. It's awful to like hope that FedEx screwed up, but that would right now be the best case scenario. Exactly. Hopefully they find them somewhere, but it's been a few days now, so we'll see. It is a little crazy, but sometimes there's something about an intellectual property, to use such like capitalist language, but there's something about some of these properties that we love because they're fun and they stand the test of time. Shipping artwork is always a scary proposition. Hope the artwork gets found. By the way, speaking of shipping artwork, let me give a quick shout out to Andy here, because during my Comic Tom co-hosted Whatnot stream, Andy had donated a beautiful page from TMNT Last Ronin that he had drawn. And he shared with me that when he ships art, he does like a sketch on the manila envelope a lot of the times, and he shared it with me. And so whoever bought that, it's not somebody that I know in real life, but congratulations, because you're not just getting a gorgeous piece of original art, you're getting a second gorgeous piece of original art. And that was so kind of you, Andy. I really appreciate the help. The art itself was just really, really beautiful. Oh yeah, it's on a manila envelope, and he's used not just like pen, but like white pencil or white pen to like do highlights for like the eyes and the mouth. It really makes it pop. It looks gorgeous. Just gorgeous. All right, moving on. We'll see what happens with this, but oh, hey, lovely to see you here. Jay Penumbra, going to talk about an article that you wrote in a little bit. It was really impressive, but it's coming up in a little bit. But if you're here, hopefully you get to hear me praise you. It was a really good article. Anyway, first let me talk about this. So Frank Quitely was interviewed this week by the Comics Journal. I'm always going to read anything Frank Quitely has to say. I'm just as big a fan of Frank Quitely as you could be. they say beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Some people don't care for how Quitely represents people, but I think he is just a master. I really do. I think he's a storytelling master. Anyway, the journal asked him about a Lobo story that he drew 30 years ago that was never published. And apparently, Quitely says DC has been inquiring about it lately. Of course. So he said that he completed this comic and it was, quote, the best thing I'd ever done to that point in my life. This is just a loose sketch that Quitely had shared. That's the only evidence I have of this existing. Just a loose sort of thumbnail, basically. But he got really discouraged when he got something like a 5-page pack of notes from editor Dan Raspler, like telling him, hey, this panel should be, a low angle. This panel should focus on this element. And he was just like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed by how many notes there were. So forget it. Writer Alan Grant has said about the story that it's called, first of all, Lobo, the hand-to-hand job. And it was a 22-page Lobo sex story, which they refused to release. The story begins as Lobo is hired to find manosphere-esque kidnappers who abducted the head of the universe's most lurid of porn magazines, and includes extensive shots of a fully naked Lobo and a pivotal scene with, quote, 10,000 asteroid miners masturbating. That's Lobo for you. That's Lobo for you. So Quitely did say, I noted, that DC asked him if he still had those pages, which indicates to me that they might not actually even have those files, if I'm reading the phrasing correctly. Maybe they do. But it was interesting that they inquired if he still had the pages. And he said, here's the thing, he'd like the story to be out there, but now he looks at it 30 years later, and he's like, he literally says something, I'm paraphrasing it, that it would probably be more educational to the comic book artists of the world and the readers if he completely redrew it at this point, because he's evolved as an artist. Obviously, that wouldn't work because DC wants to get it out in time for Supergirl, right? I mean, that's clearly what they want to do. Lobo's in Supergirl. They'd want to publish it now for the first time. It's a little funny that all of a sudden we're seeing DC be like, Swamp Thing by Rick Veitch? Yeah, we'll publish that now. Lobo by Frank Quitely? Oh, yeah. It really opens up a little door that you don't always see unless you really read a lot about comics. These big publishers have shelved all sorts of projects that have never seen the light of day that people are like, yeah, they would totally read them, and they get shelved for various reasons. So anyway, I think it would sell very well. And it would be very interesting to me as a fan of Frank Quitely to see some of his earlier artwork at this point. But I could understand from Quitely's perspective, that might not be what he wants to put out into the world right now. And from DC's perspective, they obviously are going for we want it now. And it's like, if that's the case, you should have been talking to Frank Quitely 2 years ago or something, I think so. I think it would have been before JLA Earth 2. Anyway, yeah. No, they do not tie in any way to the Supergirl movie. Oh, especially when you consider what Lobo was specifically in the 90s. Lobo in the 90s, they were definitely trying to push the boundaries of what they could do. And a lot of his books were, they had for mature readers only on it. They don't really put that label on comics anymore, do they? For mature readers? Maybe they do here and there. I don't know. Something you just stop thinking about once you become an adult and you don't have kids. You just stop looking for labels like that. I would love to see it. Who knows? Maybe it comes out after Supergirl, but before Supergirl hits streaming and DVD. I don't know what kind of timeline there is. after I made my episode, like Frank quietly reached out by email and was like, oh, if you ever want to know anything else, you can contact me and I'd be happy to share. Very gracious, because he's very in demand. I would love to see, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a hotel that hired him to illustrate across all the walls, the hallways and the bedrooms and stuff. I believe they're in Scotland, if I'm remembering right. But yeah, he illustrated a hotel. I said Frank quietly reached out. Yes. Let me say something else about Frank Quitely. So, I didn't space that very well. Sorry about it being so close to the border. But anyway, Eric Zawadzki. I'm sure a bunch of you have come across his work somewhat recently. He did the image book Heart Attack. He's currently drawing Assorted Crisis Events, which is getting plenty of attention. He was on the comic book couples counseling podcast show, The Stacks. I know that's a mouthful, but Brad and Lisa have created a video series on YouTube called The Stacks, where they go to Third Eye Comics typically, and they have a comic book creator pull out, trade paperbacks or omnibuses about a comic that they really love and explain why they love it. It's the equivalent of an actor going into the Criterion collection and talking about a film that they love. Great idea. Great idea. My hat's off to them. Really, really smart. Anyway, Eric revealed something about a Morrison Quitely team up. Zawadzki said that one of his favorite books is We Three. Same. And while discussing in depth, his love of the collaborations between Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, he said, quote, I think they have another creator-owned book coming out, I guess, as of the filming of this, hasn't been announced yet. I think what he's talking about might be this. Back in February of 2024, Morrison posted to their Substack, Xanadu, a cryptic reference to a future project that just said coming soon. It was a close-up of a script with sketches on it. So it was this. Coming soon is a little bit of a script and some layout type sketches on it. So I think they're planning on doing maybe like a small comic on the Grant Morrison Substack. I don't think that they have anything that they're intending for publication, like print, but I could be wrong. If there's another thing that they're working on together, I am there for it. No question. We'll see. Are you mature, though? Are you smoking? Because that's mature and grown up. Maybe. Yeah. Jim Rugg was on The Stacks. A lot of great artists and writers have been on it. I think Brad and Lisa had a hell of an idea with that. But they're also fortunate that they live near Third Eye. There are several comic book stores you could do that, but probably not every comic book store. You have to be in sort of a big enough market and have a nice enough store that you could host something like that. And Third Eye Comics is a fantastic set of comic book stores. Fantastic. Oh, you are smoking. Okay, you're mature and grown up. You can read mature comics then. You vape, which is millennial smoking. Dude, I just saw some sort of reel or short, and someone was saying that, and they were young. They were in their 20s. This girl said that her lung collapsed because she was vaping so much. And I read up on it, and yeah, if you vape too much, all that sort of moisture and vapor in your lung can cause it to collapse. So there are risks to vaping, folks. That was terrifying to hear. I was like, oh my God, a collapsed lung when you're young? That's just really, really disturbing to me. Yikes. I've never heard that. This is the first time coming across it. I'll tell you, all of my coworkers are generally younger guys and gals that I hang out with. They're wonderful people. They all vape. It's just a thing. It is amazing how few people that are young smoke cigarettes, but how many of them vape. It blew me away. blew me away. They all had their own private vapes. So, like when I went to Japan, not last visit, but the one before that, I got my buddy Zach like a bunch of interesting flavored vape things from Japan that I hadn't seen here. Anyway, I've taken a hit off of a vape pen before, and it's actually it can be very satisfying. I used to every once in a while go to a hookah bar when I lived in DC, and it's pretty relaxing to like vape. But yeah, it's not good for you to do a lot of. I just let you know. All right. How did I get talking about vaping from an article on Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison? I don't remember. I'll keep going. Let's talk about this. So, DC So White is a hashtag that's been trending lately. And I think that there's a really big argument to be made that DC has a problem. I'm not saying anything new by saying that. I'm just trying to broach the subject. All right, so James Portis III. I don't know if he's still here, but he was here a moment ago. He's known as J. Penumbra. He wrote a really insightful piece on The Beat that I'd recommend you reading. It's a really big article, but I thought it was a very even-handed, fair, and clever list of solutions to a problem. Talking about a problem can just be drama. But when you can talk about a problem and then list potential solutions, I think that that's constructive. And I think that he wrote a great piece. So the problem is DC does not really have an ongoing single black superhero title right now in their mainstream continuity. The last one that they had was I Am Batman. I think it went 18 issues. That ended in 2023. You could argue, okay, they've at least got Absolute Green Lantern. I'm like, okay, that's one book and it isn't in their main continuity. Like, how do you not have a solo black superhero when you've got, like, I think that some of DC's black superheroes, maybe they're not that interesting. They only work as a supporting character. But I think that Mr. Terrific has been developed well. I think Static is very popular. And I think that Vixen has a lot of potential. So those are just three that I can think of right off the bat that could support a title with the right creative team behind it. Let me talk about Jay Penumbra's article. So first of all, this is my piece, but DC's current sales dominance has shined a brighter spotlight on them. So if they have any shortcomings like this, those are going to shine even brighter. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to ignore a criticism if you're only selling a few copies. You're not making an impact. But DC is the industry leader right now. So if you're going to lead, you gotta be well balanced. So here are the three problems that Portis lists. And I think that this is very insightful. A lack of promotion, a lack of market transparency. What are the sales numbers on any of these books, aside from bragging that it sold 200,000 copies, 300,000 copies? Aside from bragging that, like, what is the up and down of all of these books so that we can make comparisons? And of course, three, a lack of opportunity. And the lack of opportunity is, I think, the toughest one to breach because it's probably a blind spot for a lot of people. But those are three very pointed, very specific criticisms. And I hope DC's editors and leadership reads this and takes it seriously, because I think that I agree with it. Portis proposes the following solution. And again, I really encourage you to read the whole article because it goes into a lot of interesting history and deeper criticisms. So three things they could do. One, launch between 1 and 3 titles in DC's mainline continuity with a strong creative team. And I think that really is key. You can't just give it to like an up-and-comer or an emerging talent. You really do need to promote it by having a top-tier talent on it to give it the best chance, okay? properly promote the series the same way they do for Batman and Superman, the Absolute line. Those things get a certain amount of promotion. Whereas it's clear that, like, when was the last time you really heard them talk about, I don't know, Teen Titans or, a mini series for Birds of Prey, something like that. They don't treat all their titles the same way marketing wise. You need to push one or two of them to see if that makes the difference. And finally, give these titles immunity from cancellation for at least 18 to 24 issues. Specifically, they argue, that you need a bigger set of data point than just like, oh, there were 6 issues and it dropped off. You got to give it time to find its audience and then also be able to compare it to how other ongoing books do. So yeah, let's collect data from more than just the print sales. Let's look when you've got a year and a half to 2 years of data. How does it do when they put it up digitally? Does it find an audience later that binges on it? How does it do as collected trade paperbacks? If you're canceling a book by 6 issues or 10 issues or something, you're not always motivated to make those trade paperbacks. Or there's not a reason for people to pick it up to catch up. So I think that these are some good ideas. Here's my one criticism about Jon Stewart is that I think as a character, he's well-defined. But I'd have this problem with any of Green Lantern. They all have the same powers. They basically all have the same look. I would say that it's very derivative. And that's why I was saying like Static or Vixen, maybe even Steel, even though he's like a Superman ally, he's a guy in armor, or for that matter, Hardware maybe. Personally, if you were going to dip into the milestone characters, I think Icon and Rocket have a lot more to build on that makes them unique. But anyway, yeah, they don't want to do any more miniseries. Like enough about the miniseries. Yeah, they did the crossover with Batman Beyond. That Mr. Terrific did get a 6-issue series by Al Letson, who's a really great writer, happens to be black. Cool, but that's just 6 issues. Whereas if they could attract, say Sanford Green to also write a black character, I think that would like make a bit more of a market impact with the whole mainstream audience. I'm not saying I've got the solutions, but I do think that Jay Penumbra wrote a really insightful article that I encourage you to read. This hashtag DC So White is definitely trending and getting discussed a lot. And I would not be surprised if, it evolves into, I don't know, maybe a boycott or some sort of a bigger movement in videos or something like that. DC did buy the rights to most milestone things, yes. And that's cool. That would be cool. But again, they aren't prominent enough when they're a member of a team. It needs to be the same thing that you do with Spider-Man or Thor or Batman or Wonder Woman. You need to have like a single black superhero. And some people will say, okay, well, what about, Asian superheroes? What about Hispanic superheroes? Great point. Great point. But this is coming from a bunch of black comic readers. They have an investment and a desire for something, and they're pushing for that. You can't do everything all at once. But if we can make this happen and prove that it works, maybe that opens some doors for other superheroes and stuff. Oh, is that what it is? Milestone does still own the rights, but DC has a publishing agreement? I knew that was the original deal, but I didn't know that. I think Static, you go like, maybe he doesn't have the most original powers. There's lots of superheroes, actually a lot of black superheroes with electric powers. Don't know why that is. I've never understood. But he's at least his own person, and I think he fits a lot of the prototypical teenager trying to juggle real life and being a superhero that you get with characters like, what do you call it? Like Spider-Man and Kamala Khan and Miles. It's kind of weird. Marvel has a lot of problems right now. They really do. I would say they do a slightly better job than DC is doing right now. But why? Because Marvel's business strategy is to put out more titles and take more shelf space. And I think that like Miles Morales and Kamala Khan are both examples of characters that would be even more popular if they'd go past 10 issues. I really believe that. I really believe that if you have a consistent team and you do at least 2 years, I think that those characters would be even more popular. Yeah, Static absolutely predates Miles. And I think that they are different characters that, there's a lot to like about Static. I think the fact that Static had a cartoon at a time when a lot of today's readers were still growing up, that makes a certain amount of market penetration or knowledge with the mainstream. That's really nice to see. It's just so weird to me that I feel like the first one I do if I was in charge of DC would be to give Static a book, because he's established with a history of his own. He's got a lot of mainstream market attention. I just feel like that could be a slam dunk if you got the right creative team. Jay Penumbra is here. Sorry. Absolute titles don't solve the problem. Yeah, we need mainline ongoings. Right. And he's talked about how many days it's been since the last DC ongoing, which I believe, if I'm remembering right, is this I Am Batman book, which again, nothing wrong with some of these characters. There really isn't. In the right hands, any character can have good stories. But I think DC should try to find their characters that aren't derivative of an existing character. Jon Stewart's a great character. Jace Fox is a great character. I would focus more on some of the more original ones that they've got from Milestone, Vixen, etc. That's what I would do. But I'm not the guy. I think Cyborg it's wild. Like, they pushed him so hard, and they've done a good job integrating Cyborg as one of their top tier heroes. And Cyborg is at least original and not derivative of, how does Cyborg not have his own ongoing book right now by somebody out there that's like, a top name? And knowing if now that DC can see these trending hashtags and go, hey, people are very aware that we don't have a mainstream ongoing Black superhero. Let's get somebody. Yeah. And the thing you come back to is, Black Lightning, Vixen, Cyborg. Well, maybe not Cyborg, actually, but Vixen and well, no, actually, now I'm going to backtrack even more. I was about to say they were all created by white people, but you know what? When you wrap in Trevor Von Eden, when you roll in even George Perez, they're not strictly white people. So I guess there is a good history. Yeah, Morgan Hampton's doing the Green Lantern Corps, and did the Cyborg book. Again, I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. 5, 6, even 10 issues, not enough to know for sure if it can take off. I loved Jay Penumbra's idea of saying, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to give it immunity from cancellation for 1.5 to 2 years. Cyborg is criminally underused. Cyborg would be perfect to use as a lens for the ongoing tech controversies. I'd say it's also probably time to redo his design a little bit so that he could fit in real life. Mr. Terrific has gone through a lot of good growth. I think that his presentation in the Superman movie, I think, was very strong. He's just a really clever guy, and he's so capable, and he's got a unique attitude and personality. I miss Dwayne so much. Growing up, Dwayne McDuffie was a writer. I very quickly, as a teenager, came to find that I loved his work. And I tell everybody about Damage Control. Damage Control under Dwayne McDuffie was such a good look. And exactly. And it wouldn't be hard to do that. I mean, how many characters are out there like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, that both have their own book and are on a team? Don't think too much about the logic of how much time people have. Nubia is a pretty good character. I think Nubia helps Wonder Woman more than Wonder Woman helps Nubia, if that makes sense. Wait, does Calderon count? Ooh, I'll admit to my lack of knowledge on that one. I'd have to Google it. Oh, Jesus, that's a terrible idea. I don't have a whole lot more to add tonight. But I think that this is getting this is getting people thinking. Obviously, I'm getting some really positive, insightful comments, as well as talking about characters that they love. There are existing characters that are loved. And if you want to create a new character too, DC, not against that. But I think that what would really help would be a top tier creative team and that immunity. And then something the entire industry would benefit for. We need more transparency on sales. It's exciting to hear that a book has sold so much, more than typical. But how can we compare anything these days when we don't know what, we don't know what Punisher sells. We don't know what Web of Spider-Man, if there even is a Web of Spider-Man book right now. We don't know what that is. Oh, Calder is Aqualad. Thank you. It's all clicking. Yes, I'm very fortunate right now to see that Ernie and James are both chatting with you guys. That's a real privilege. And look, those, by the way, if you don't know, they're the guys that came up with the hashtag and are really guiding this movement. I wish you guys the best of luck in controlling this conversation, because these things can sometimes get unwieldy. I think it's a very positive thing for the industry and for readers to focus on the shortcomings, especially when if DC is selling this well, they should really be able to afford some great talent. I hope it happens. And I've expressed which superheroes I think could potentially work well. Anyway, I really encourage you anyway, at the end of the day, to read the article, James Portis 3, The Beat. If you put that in, you will see. I tell you what, I always make an edit as soon as I finish the live stream. In the description, I'll put a link in there for everyone's benefit so that you can read up on it. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Brunson, I would love to see you work on one of these characters, man. I think that you'd be a great fit on a lot of them, especially maybe somebody. I like your street level stuff with wait, all of a sudden I'm blanking. Is it Ghost Man? All of a sudden I was thinking Ghost Agent. Yeah, Ghost Man. Okay, I had it right. Sorry. Momentary brain fart. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll continue with the news. There was a lot to say about this, and probably will be in the future, too. Let's see where this goes, and what we as readers could do to support this messaging. I'm sure Raymar would be happy to collaborate with you. It's in everybody's best interests. Anyway, great original character, Ghostman by Raymar Brunson, if you guys haven't read it. All right, going to talk a little bit more about DC, this time pivoting just a small thing about the Absolute Universe. There was a Twitter user, this name, and they posted a short video at a signing with Scott Snyder. And Scott confirmed that Absolute Martian Manhunter is going to be the specific character that brings together the Absolute characters for an event. So that's kind of interesting. Oh, yeah. No, well, I don't know what other comics people are saying, to be honest. I just read the article. I've seen the hashtags on like threads and stuff. So I'm following along, and but honestly, the thing that really moved me the most, which was the inciting incident here, was I really thought that James wrote a great article on the beat, and I just loved that it wasn't just complaining, that he proposed some real tangible solutions, and I think that they make so much sense, and it makes it easier. All right. But it's so hard sometimes to pivot from one piece of news to the next. I'll do my best. All right. This story is going to be written by Jason Aaron. And I guess the other Absolute writers will help plot it, but they're not scripting it. It's going to be specifically Jason Aaron. And DC had previously told us that event is going to happen in Q4. It should be noted, Absolute Martian Manhunter ends next month, actually, just like a month, at issue 12. A lot of people have loved that. You know, I feel bad. Martian Manhunter wasn't one I stuck with, so I plan on getting it in trade. But I have personally really enjoyed Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman. I think they're great books. Here's one that might be fun for all of you. You might win something, okay? Here's something easy. So DC Comics has launched DC's Building Bad sweepstakes. Sorry, that one cracks me up a little. A competition offering fans the chance to co-design, to a degree, and name a new Batman villain. Okay. The winner's creation will debut in the pages of September's Detective Comics issue 1113, as well as in downloadable content for the new video game Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Something just occurred to me. We started this news saying that Amazing Spider-Man is hitting issue 1000, but Detective Comics is a Golden Age book, and it's only at 1113. How did Marvel bump up the numbers for Amazing Spider-Man that high? He should only be at something more like 800 or something like that. Who cares right now? Who cares? I am such a nerd for the Lego games. They are my zen. They really are. I always get 100% on all the Lego games. I love them. I love them. But that's kind of a fun reward going in. Now, look, if you think you have the world's best idea, don't give it away in this contest. Make your own story. But that's kind of fun. Bi-weekly issues for Spider-Man, but that, yeah, I know it's been bi-weekly here and there, but I don't think that should make up for that many decades head start. We're talking literally 3 decades more. I don't know. Maybe not quite full 3 decades, but over 2. Anyway, the competition is open for fans from United States, Canada, and the UK. Don't ask me why other countries. I don't know. You have to be over the age of 13. You've got through June 1st. You don't really have to do anything to enter the contest. There's a form here you can fill out. But anyway. Oh, that's a fun question. Which Lego games are my all-time favorite? What was the most recent one? I haven't been able to play any video games in quite a while since the flooding downstairs. I can't access my consoles, so all of a sudden I'm blanking on what the last one was. Was it a Star Wars one? I did really like I liked Marvel superheroes a lot. I liked Lord of the Rings a lot. I don't know. I like them all. Fun question. Thank you. An invulnerable villain called the Cheese. No one can cut the cheese. That's good. I like this, for his nephew to play. Plausible deniability. Oh wait, is that Matteo Scalera? Let me look close. Interesting. Maybe that is Matteo. That is an interesting question. I hadn't paused to look at the black and white artwork. I'd love to know. I love some of the shapes in this, including the hard angles on, like, say, Scarecrow's mouth or something. Definitely like that they're using a lot of the animated series designs here, as you can see, specifically with Clayface and Mr. Freeze, but also, look, the Phantasm. Oh, I only watched season 1 of this, but I didn't realize it's been gone for a little while. It's coming back. It's been 2 years since season 2 of My Adventures with Superman. DC Studios announced that it's returning. They announced that this week. So Warner Brothers shared that My Adventures with Superman season 3 is going to premiere on Adult Swim Saturday, June 13th at midnight as part of its Toonami anime action block, and then the next day available on HBO Max. There's a couple interesting things about this image. Anyway, the season is taking a bunch of its cues from the 90s Reign of Superman storyline. That's where 4 replacement Superman showed up. I don't think that they're not doing Death of Superman, I don't believe, but they're introducing, Cyborg Superman, possibly Eradicator. I'm almost positive clone Superboy, and they've already introduced Steel, so they can bring him back. Yeah. So could be fun. And then specifically, when you look at Hank Henshaw, Cyborg Superman here, what's interesting is that he does not have the S. He has an L, which strongly implies that Lex Luthor, I always say Luthor, Lex Luthor has something to do with him. I think that they are introducing Connor, but I don't know for a fact. It's a good show. It's good animation. It's fun design. The L stands for hope. You're a jerk. The season's also going to have a cameo by Jessica Cruz, and she's getting her own My Adventures with Green Lantern series. That's not bad at all. I think that could be potentially really popular, actually. Lex Luger. I didn't say that. Hey, now people are making fun of a supervillain. How dare you? How dare you? No, but I would say that I'm not reading a ton of superhero books right now. My Adventures with Superman gets 2 years to produce their show. People don't make a fuss. Invincible does it. People complain. Then they rush so that it comes out every year with limited animation. I would not call Invincible limited animation. I know that there are the occasional shortcuts. I think that they do a good job with a lot of their action scenes. I think their actual designs for characters are fantastic. I think that people are a little harsh on Invincible, but I'm willing to say I'm biased. Those guys are my friends, so maybe I'm biased. Let me try to give some proper respect to a creator who passed. Writer Len Strazewski. He passed away this week at only age 71 after battling an infection. Apparently, he'd been in the ICU for a while, got released, but it came back, and that they just called it an infection. So I would assume something along the lines of pneumonia. Strazewski, if you don't know, Strazewski is well known as one of the co-creators of Prime from the Ultraverse. Love Norm Brayfogle. Prime will probably never get reprinted because of one of the other writers of that book committed some very gross crimes. So that's too bad, because it was a fun book at the time, great art, and would be nice to let Len have his flowers for something he created that was original. But he also wrote a lot of DC titles over the year. Starman, JSA, he's pretty well known for. Definitely The Fly, The Flash, Action Comics Weekly. Those are just some of his many credits. Yeah, The Fly was fun. here's what's interesting. I always love when you can find sort of that next level to a creator. He had a lot of success in journalism, I found out when looking him up. He wrote a lot about healthcare for both the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Sun-Times. That's a massive accomplishment. And he served as a journalism professor at Columbia College in Chicago, where he also served as a member of the college's board of trustees. Very different, obviously, from what we talk about and read and everything, but very impressive to sort of hit that next gear. You have some success in one thing, boop, boop, all of a sudden another wave of success in something completely different. Amazing when they have that next gear. Amazing. Here's a way to make a little bit of money. A little bit, okay? But hey, maybe you're already using it. Maybe you could use the credits. Neon Ichiban, a new digital comics platform by some of the guys behind the original good version of Comixology. They've announced a $10,000 giveaway. There's a caveat to this. Don't get too excited yet. On the 28th, they launched their Review and Earn program. That's where fans can submit a review of books that they've read on the platform. It will go through a moderator to get approved. And if it gets approved by the moderator and posted, you get a 50-cent credit for writing that review, up to a maximum of $5. So you can use that on, digital comics, digital remarks, trading. To be clear, no one is winning a $10,000 gift, okay? The $10,000 is the pool, the budget to pay people for writing all of these reviews. But if you're the kind of person that already uses this or enjoys writing a review, why not get paid for it? Comixology is very broken now. It used to be fantastic. It used to be so easy to use. You could buy the comics through the app. It had a great reader interface, but they rolled it into Amazon Kindle. You have to buy it separately and then open it in the Kindle app, and the reader isn't as good. So it's very broken right now, in my opinion. Interesting model. Reviews and comments on e-com sites are hard to manage due to the moderation involved. Yeah. Did they? I haven't kept up. If they fixed it, I did not know that. Look, it's just a way to get more people engaged with the site while it's new. It's not a bad idea at all. Is it a massive amount of money? No, but there's plenty of people that could be using it already, and why not get a little something for your time? I wish sometimes that I lived on the East Coast again, because this is something I'd love to go to that would be within drivable distance if I still was on the East Coast. But after a series of upgrades, the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum is set to reopen to the public Saturday, May 23rd. It's got redesigned galleries and new exhibitions. This thing's amazing. Caitlin McGurk is the person that runs this, and the Billy Ireland Cartoon Museum just is everything about the history of comics and some of the biggest library, I believe, of comics in the world. Thank you for the super chat. I got a villain, Dr. Redundant, a villain that fights heroes by creating reality warping redundancies down to a cosmic level. See, that's so good. You should use it yourself. That's pretty good. Don't give that one away. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Let me tell you a little bit more about the museum and library. The reopening features Life is Complicated, an exhibition by the acclaimed cartoonist Chris Ware. The show is the only U.S. presentation of this collection. It's going to be on view all the way through January 3rd. So big exhibition. Chris Ware definitely does things differently. Would be very interested in seeing his work and his process. A central addition to the museum, this is new, The Story of Comics. That's going to be a permanent exhibition that examines the history of comics and cartoon art across more than 400 years. So we're talking all sorts of cartooning as well as sequential storytelling in all its myriad forms. So cool. The Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum. It's free. It's open to the public. It's at Ohio State University. They're open Tuesday through Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m. If you live anywhere close to the Ohio State University, you might want to check it out. I would. I'm so glad that they've expanded it and grown. It's just one of the best places for comic book history that we've got in the world. Yeah, I would too. They have. I've talked a tiny bit to Caitlin at least once, and they don't just have, to be clear, golden and silver and bronze age comics. They have, mainstream and indie and old and new and foreign and domestic, and they have things like what do you call it? Sometime I'm going to do an episode about this. I keep putting it off, but Tijuana Bibles, basically porno comics. They have things like that at their library. It's amazing. If there are original Acme novelty library pages on display, that would be amazing to see. I'd almost guarantee it, Mike. I don't know for a fact. When is Four Kids Walk Into a Bank supposed to come out? If I could have jumped back an hour and a half, I could have gotten an answer for you. Sorry. Well, 7 hours is big, but if you ever want to plan a weekend for yourself, be a pretty amazing experience for anybody that loves comic books. Someday I hope to go there. Someday I hope to visit it. Talked about this a little up front with a joke, but Japanese media giant Kadokawa is planning to expand their retail presence in the United States. They're reorganizing right now the management behind the scenes for who runs their 10 Manga Spot retail locations, which are primarily in malls, which makes plenty of sense if you've been to Asia. Malls still do very well. Over here, not quite as much. The stores carry manga from a wide variety of publishers. It's not like just one. They also do have comics and toys and statues and things like that, posters from U.S. publishers. So you could get the Invincible Compendium there, Kadokawa said in a press release, in part, "We are convinced that building direct contact with fans through our retail business is key to further growth in the North American market. And we intend to promote rapid business development under this new structure, leveraging our expertise." Now, to be clear, beyond the U.S. market, why I think that this could potentially be good is Kadokawa does a good job in researching what works in a foreign market, foreign to them, because they also operate stores in Thailand, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Malaysia, I think Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia. So, and all of those stores include local manga, stuff that's made by the artists and writers of that country. So they don't just import; they also carry stuff that's local, and so they research what people like in that market. And so I've never been to a Manga Spot, but hopefully these take off. It's an interesting idea. I'm not 100% convinced that malls are the way to go, but I do think that the current youngest generation is really into physical media, having grown up with how intangible all of our digital media is. There's a huge pushback by Gen Z and stuff to go physical, and I like that. Oh, really? The Kingston Mall? Man, Kingston, Massachusetts Mall. I used to love that place when I was a teenager. I will admit it was new back then. And I have the silliest memory. When did Phantom Menace come out, folks? Was that 99? Or was that I think it was 99, right? Anyway, whenever that came out, actually just before it came out, Hasbro was releasing a new wave of Phantom Menace action figures that they were going to release at midnight at Toys R Us. So I went to the Kingston Mall and got in line to get Star Wars action figures. And I look back and what not exciting figures, but I got one of each, and I'm getting like, Boss Nass and who else was in there? Like Captain Palooka or whatever his name was, like all these characters that I didn't know who was going to be the popular one yet in the movie. But just the fact that I, as an adult at that point, stood in line to get these action figures and was like, oh, wow. And people were like snatching them up off the racks. Oh my God. My favorite movie is definitely not Panaka. I wasn't actually that far off. That's interesting for such a minor character. And I don't have any of those anymore. When I moved across the country like 14, 15 years ago, whatever it was, I gave those all away to one friend who'd recently had a baby. And I was like, when they're, a toddler or something, here's a ton of Star Wars figures that they can play with. Indie publisher, I almost stuttered. I did stutter. Indie publisher Cosmic Lion is going to begin printing manga with the launch of a specific manga imprint, Cosmic Lion Manga, and it's going to begin with 2 titles. I think Cosmic Lion puts out a lot of great books. I really like them, so I wanted to talk about this. Side Quests to World Domination is written and illustrated by Squire McGuire. The story follows Lady Fravalon, a former tyrant who once ruled the kingdom of, I think it's pronounced Tygus. Anyway, following their defeat at the hands of legendary heroes, she and her dragon companion, Azalier, are banished to the modern real world. So they have to figure out what things are like. I like the idea of sort of a spoiled brat being forced to deal with our world as a punishment. That just feels appropriate. Yes, nice to see you. John Burkett has had his book Feral Star put out by Cosmic Lion. And if you've seen Raymar Brunson has had Ghost Man published by Cosmic Lion. So a couple people in here have worked with Cosmic Lion. Anyway, in August, Volume 2 of Half the Crown by Ro Higashi comes out. And here's the description there. When Penny-Chu, a girl haunted by the unseen world, is invited to a new school, she didn't expect to be sharing a space with the standoffish yet kind Issei Devlin, much less her soul. However, their bond might be the deciding factor in an ancient conflict as it finally comes to a head. So Ro Higashi will actually lead the line, of course, with publisher Eli Schwab. And Cosmic Lion did recently announce that they got new distribution with Prana Publishers. So good for Cosmic Lion. If you haven't read them before, but you see the Cosmic Lion logo on a book, it's a mark of good quality for indie books. Really cool stuff. Anybody know Rachel Rising? I bet a bunch of people know Terry Moore, Strangers in Paradise, but you might not know Rachel Rising, but maybe you will. Dark Horse is going to release the complete Rachel Rising, all 42 issues of the horror comic alongside the never-before collected 0 issue. So it started back in 2011. Here's the PR description of it. When Rachel climbs from a shallow grave with no memory of her death, she sets off a chain of sinister revelations connecting the small town's past to its violent present. Combining slow burn horror, dark mystery, and Moore's trademark character work, Rachel Rising remains one of the most acclaimed horror comics of all time. 904 pages. 904 pages. This December, $59.99. Oh, look at that. I'm never that surprised when people hear know some good indie comics. Just thought I'd put that on people's radar. Last piece of news. Oh, good. Dr. Schubel also familiar. That's really cool. Last piece of news, just a sort of a tidbit, really, but Lunar Distribution asked comic book shops this week to pulp 2 recent Image comics that were delivered because I guess there were some printing errors. Punderworld Volume 2 by Linda Sajic from Image Comics has a misprint on page 51. No Man's Land by Simon Kudransky has pages printed out of order, starting with page 7. I think 7 and 8 were the ones that were flipped. Anyway, I want to ask, do folks still try to collect misprints, or do you just go like, no, take it back, I want the good thing? Because when I was a kid, I will admit, people got excited to hear about a misprint. They were like, oh, this is going to be a rare collector's item. Pretty much didn't ever happen, but yeah. Yeah. Speculators and scalpers salivating over a book they've never ever heard of. Yeah, I kind of do too. But I do have the original hardcover compendium of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which famously has a misprint. And they even have like a little sheet explaining what the misprint is and saying that you can take it back to your store for like swapping it out with the right one. That was like back in the 80s or 90s. If you don't know these books, No Man's Land is a murder mystery on the ice that's between Russia and the US. So who has jurisdiction figuring that out? That's the crux of the question. And then Punderworld is the romantic misadventures, I'll call them, of Persephone and Hades. So yeah, just 2 books. My copy of Helen of Windhorn had a misprint. It had the description for the comic Dawn Runner inside. I never heard about that one. I had a Spidey book that was flipped inside out, so first page was page 11. You know, I bet it's still on eBay for like, I think over a decade. This one guy has been trying to sell a book that he says is a misprint. There's really no way to confirm this, but it's got like, I think a Teen Titans cover, and then inside is Marvel, maybe 2-in-1, and he's trying to sell it for like over $1 million. But it's like, even if this is a real misprint and there's like really no way to be 100% sure that it's real, who cares? You know, who cares? They're like, this is the only time a Marvel and DC book got mixed up. Let me just see real quick if it's still up. eBay 2-in-1 Teen Titans. Oh my God, it is. All right. Let me pull this aside. And it is going for over $1 million. Okay, I'm going to remove that and add something else. Share screen. Yeah. Look at this. Mega rare error comic. DC Teen Titans number 6. Marvel 2-in-174. And they've CGC'd it, but it's like, there's really no way to prove that this was authentically, like, it would not be hard to remove a staple and swap a cover, in my opinion. But they say that it happened at the printer. And look, they've been trying to get $1.2 million for years and years. This has been up for like literally like 10 years. Somebody's trying to sell it. This is the whole description. There are apparently a total of 3 qualified green label copies of this now, according to the CGC census, including this one. I don't believe that it's real, but maybe. They're talking about how rare things are. They're like, these are some rare stamps. These are some rare coins. There's so few copies. This is what they go for. So this is definitely worth it. But it's like, even if we just accept the premise that this is a real error, who gives a shit? $1.2 million. And it's slabbed. So you can't even like prove that it's a Marvel comic inside. Like, who needs it? I bought 2 copies, all right? Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of like Marvel and DC Comics having the wrong cover of their own book attached here and there. It's a 7.5. I just don't really believe that it's real, but I'm just a skeptical guy. I'd have no way to know for sure. All right. that was a lot of news and interviews, but there's more show. I really want to talk to you guys about the comics that came out this week. There's plenty to say, so give me a moment to set that up. I'm going to give you a little transition here while I get that going. Where is... oh, here it is. Let's do it.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
You've had enough reviews. All right. Since it was a news topic, I thought that I'd start by taking a quick look at Dungeon Crawler Carl, which this is my first exposure to the story. I want to say there's either 6 or 7 of these books so far. And I might actually at this point be interested in reading the book. The comic, it's okay because I get the premise. I'll be honest, the art really isn't for me. It's by a studio, a webtoon studio called Laurel Pursuit. I don't know what that means. And it gave me enough about the premise. You know, there's this guy, Carl, who is Coast Guard officer. So he's, you know, physically pretty capable. He's a smart enough guy. He's broken up with a girlfriend, but he's still got their cat. Anyway, aliens decimate the entire planet. Like, they decimate any like structure. Everybody that's inside it dies. Everybody that's left, this is some real Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy logic here. The people that are left are allowed to try to reclaim resources if they can get through an 18-level dungeon. It's basically just giving the excuse to make them play through Dungeons and Dragons type of environment. I'm not the most informed person about role-playing games, but it's a funny premise. It works. It lets you, you know, jump into all sorts of wacky adventures, right? Cool, fine. I'm in. I like the premise quite a bit. I like who the character is. I think it does have F words in it. I don't think it censored anything. It definitely has violence, like you see here. Like, the head of one of his neighbors that was in their apartment building just rolls up to him and he's like, "What?" Oh yeah, that does have the swear word there. So anyway, whatever. I think that's allowed. Now look, this is like 20 pages, so it's not insignificant. However, for such a big story, adapting like the first book, it's a pretty small chunk of the setup. It lets you know if you'd like it or not. And for me, I think I like the story. The art, it's not really for me, I don't think. I'll be honest. Some of this art, when I looked at it, I go, is any of this AI generated? I'd have no way to know for sure, but it is like a crew that's probably at least using some sort of like models, like 3D models, I think. Yeah, I don't know. If it's not, it's very derivative, like sort of what people that haven't read manga think of is manga. But I don't know for a fact that it's using any of those sort of assets. I just didn't, the art didn't speak to me. I don't think well, I'm pretty sure that it was formatted originally for Webtoon. You can see that there's a lot of like tall panels and stuff like that. You can and close-ups. I feel like this had that format in mind first. And it sort of fits together okay as sequential storytelling. Like, it roughly does a Z pattern, but I don't think it's perfect for that. I think that some of these panels have been scaled up and down to make this work. In other words, well, you know what? We were talking a little bit about this in my interview when we started with Matthew Rosenberg, how you have to decide what medium is the primary medium you're making a story for, right? Because he was saying, like, hey, he and his brother were both thinking this story through. Brother wanted to do it as a movie. He wanted to do it as a comic. And they had to decide that before they really proceeded, because you can't serve two mediums equally well. You have to start with one. And I think that this was started with the idea of a webtoon. Okay, and that's fine. But I don't think it reads super clearly once it becomes in print, because I'm pretty sure some of these panels are scaled down, and yet like they're really heavily colored, which I'm sure is vibrant when it's got, like, you know, a light shining it to us. But once it's printed, this looks just a little muddy. It covers up anyway some of the line art. So I think that if you're a huge fan of this property, or you haven't read a whole lot of manga or comics, this really may satisfy you, and that's fine. You know, it didn't visually capture me a whole lot. It's not bad, but I don't think it has the storytelling elements that I want to see in a comic. Like, to me, this panel, like, there's a certain amount of detail, but it's really squashed down. So anyway, that's just my presumption, is that, you know, it was, of course, made to be vertical scrolling, take up a certain amount of space. The colors look a certain way on the computer, and when you translate that into print, I don't think it looks the same. Hey, thank you, Jeannie. That's true. Happy Star Wars to the Tropers. Sorry I missed most of the stream tonight. That's okay. You've got a puppy and 2 kittens now. So, yeah. Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for the good news. I'm glad that you got whatever you bid on. Thank you. That's good. It's a little generic. I don't get the hype, and I'm a tabletop game nerd. I think it's just that, I don't know, it's a little funny. For instance, he walks into the dungeon, right? He walks into the dungeon, and they tell him things like, you know, you're assigned the race of human. You're currently level 1. Where's something really funny? He gets like certain like little reward boxes. Oh, I should say there's all this like text and like loot boxes and stuff, because the aliens apparently broadcast this as like a reality show as people play this game of life and death. Oh yeah, this part amused me. He goes, "You didn't bring any supplies along, none. You know you still got to eat, right? Reward: you received a bronze adventure box. New achievement: why aren't you wearing pants? You entered the dungeon wearing no pants. Seriously? You've received a gold apparel box." I don't know. It's a little funny. I'm not against the humor. I guess it strikes me as this. What was it called? Hold on. Oh yeah, Ready Player One. It very much strikes me as that. I don't know if the books are better or similar. In this format, that's what it struck me as, is like Ready Player One. A lot of like, hey, remember Iron Giant and Back to the Future? They're here. Oh no. Definitely take a look on the forum and email them. I'll email. Okay, check your email. I got mine. I'll try to do a follow-up tomorrow. Tomorrow's a work day, but I should be able to email Dynamite and ask where they're at on fulfillment. Look, I get it. This is popular. It's to me, I go, yeah, if this was a Harry Potter comic, it almost doesn't matter what the quality level. It's, you know, the market has a desire for it, and so it's going to get them. Oh, good. I'm glad that you got Feral, Jeannie. That's so cool. All right. I'm glad that most of it's getting fulfilled. Good. Sorry, Mike. Let me know if I need to help you, okay? Let's see. Yeah, for the screen they're RGB. For print, they have to be CMYK. Not necessarily have to be these days. Some printers can take the RGB files, but you have to know that it's not going to look the same as it does on the screen. Some printers can still accept RGB files these days. But yeah, I look, I'd love to just go, oh man, I'm totally aboard the Dungeon Crawler Carl train. I'd say my curiosity has been piqued about the books. I'm probably not going to go ahead and get the upcoming compendium of the entire like webtoon. That doesn't necessarily speak to me. I think I'd prefer to read the book and let that go in my imagination. But that's me. It just sort of a little generic art-wise, a little bit empty background-wise. Not the worst. They've got enough detail, but it also feels like that there are moments where I go, I feel like that's an asset that was generated, not something that was drawn. That's my critique. I could be wrong. Oh, I almost forgot. I got these. You see that? Colonel's favorite jelly beans. KFC made jelly beans. And my understanding is they're disgusting. So I thought I would try some real quick here on the stream. Let me take a moment here to see what we got. Hold on. All right. That is fried chicken. This is sweet corn. And I need to get one that's gravy. I do not see how this is going to work. This is not going to work, is it? This is going to be like those... what's that game? Bean Boozled, that will have things like pepper and vomit and earwax and stuff like that. Bear with me. Which one should I start? I guess I should start with fried chicken, right? I mean, that's what the Colonel specializes in. So if they're going to make a jelly bean, you would hope that fried chicken is the best. But I feel like, how do you make fried chicken sweet and taste natural? Here we go. Mott, good to see you. Here we go. Oh my God. It's bad. Oh, that just tasted like chemicals. Okay, hold on. There's a little aftertaste that does sort of taste like fried chicken. Ugh! Oh, I'm trying to think of how to describe what that actually tasted like at first. Like sweet chemicals, but not anything like fried chicken. There's a small aftertaste. There's a small aftertaste that I go, okay, yeah, that's... Whew. I know I ingest plenty of chemicals. No, I think that they are seriously... Look, Mike, I mean, that's their brand, right? Is being KFC. These are official KFC jelly beans. They're definitely trying to do this, but it's not good. It's not good. All right, gravy has to be better. It has to be. Gravy. It's worse. Tastes like mildew. Oh, again, at the very, very end, I've got an aftertaste that's kind of like gravy, but that's horrible. Oh, I don't know which of those is worse. I think it's the gravy. I think that the gravy is supposed to be like mashed potatoes and gravy, maybe? I don't know. Oh, I should have had... I finished my coffee. Damn it. All I can hope for right now is that sweet corn can't be that bad. They've made like popcorn. So like this has to be better. And hopefully this cleanses my palate. So hopefully, real quick, this sweet corn one isn't as bad. It's okay. That one wasn't gross. That one wasn't. I wouldn't say I like it. I wouldn't say I like it, but that one wasn't bad. Oh my God. I have to change shirts. Yeah. Always hungry? Not after eating this. Oh my God, what a bad idea. What a bad idea. It just doesn't translate, you know? What jelly beans work? Fruit type flavors, right? Candy. Fried chicken and gravy do not translate at all to a sweet, sugary treat. That was horrible. That was legit horrible. Horrible. We should dig up the Colonel and make him eat those. Sweet corn is better than bitter corn. Yeah. Oh. Fried chicken jelly bean was something I just ate. So folks, you know, feel free to get them if you think that you're going to do any better. I don't think you'll like them. That is not going to take off. All three at once. Anyone want to give me a $2 super chat and I'll eat it again? But like, I don't really want to eat those. Those are pretty gross. That is not a treat. Candy should be fun and a treat, right? It's like, oh, I'm being bad. I'm having something fun. That was disgusting. Well, 2 of the 3 were disgusting. And then the sweet corn was just fine. That's about as good as I can say. My God, those were awful. It's an interesting idea that people proposed, like the gravy and the fried chicken together. But I think we're confusing what that would be in real life. Like, but I don't know. What? KFC also has a game console and a movie with Mario Lopez. All right. I'll go back to reviewing comics. Oh, my God. I did just say that, like, if you wanted to give me a super chat, fine. This is on you, Mike. This is on you. I'll get one of all 3 then. It's disgusting, but for $2, sure. All right. Corn, gravy, chicken. Oh. Nope. Nope. Oh, that's horrible. That's worse. I'm not going to finish eating that. I spat it out in my coffee cup. That was horrible. That was really goddamn bad. Oh, I got to find just a sweet corn one again because it's the only thing I've got that can cleanse my palate. Oh my God, I can't believe how bad those tasted altogether. Disgusting. Disgusting. All right. Let's talk about something not disgusting. Sorry for the weird little side quest. We got a new Energon universe book, and I think that how much you'll enjoy this at, like, you know, this being the 3rd one they've done, like about 2 years in, is going to depend on how much you're enjoying Transformers and G.I. Joe, basically, you know. But I liked it, and I think that it's a good value. Good value. It's free. I think it's one of the better free Comic Book Day books because it's pretty much a full story. It's an introduction, but it's not just like a preview page that just cuts off, okay? It's a teaser of what's going on in each of these books to a degree, but we've got a decent-sized Mask story, a super brief Transformers thing that does introduce something new, a brief Void Rivals thing that also, like, introduced something a little new, and a really cool sort of behind-the-scenes story about what's going on in G.I. Joe. But, you know, the main draw at this point is this is what's new, is adding Mask and defining who these characters are, including some new villains. I think that the artwork by Pi Par is fun. It's clean and clear. It's engaging. I was never super into Mask as a kid. You Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any of the toys. I watched a couple of the cartoons, really good animation and catchy theme song. I guess it just never mattered to me that much. But I do like what they've done with it here because it really fits very organically into a world with G.I. Joe and Transformers. So I enjoy this. It's got some cool action beats, a little bit of fleshing out of some of these characters. It's not bad at all. It's a pretty cool adventure where two villains team up to break a third one out of jail. And, it builds these characters up to be an actual threat, which I liked. I think one of the coolest shots by Par is, this is a really cool scene of the bad guy, Miles Mayhem. He's got like a helicopter that transforms into a jet. And at one point, you just go, well, those are just both flying vehicles. What's the difference? Well, the difference is, whether you want to like hover and like drop down or whether you want to just have a quick burst of speed and like blast into enemy territory. And I go, okay, they're thinking of it a little bit strategically. Like, what could you do with this stuff? I go, okay, I like that. And then they're leaning into the fact that they also, in addition to having these transforming vehicles, have helmets that give them sort of an extra ability. Not bad. I sort of remember that. Yeah, one guy would go like use his helmet powers and he'd go lifter on. And did it have like telekinesis or magnet powers? Something like that. I was very into both Transformers and G.I. Joe. And I think the only reason I didn't necessarily get into Mask was like, first of all, I didn't need to be into a third thing. And second, the prices on it were they were more than G.I. Joe and they were more than a lot of Transformers. KFC sunscreen, I'll try that next. Anyway, I think it's a fun thing if you're already into this world. I don't know if this would be the thing to draw you in because Mask is cool, but I don't think it has the same market penetration as G.I. Joe or Transformers. But does it work as an addition to this world? No question. It works really seamlessly. There's a new character that we see in like the jungle for the Transformers story. And at first I'm going like, what's the point of this? But she's living in this like husk of Ironhide, who we haven't seen in the book yet. Could he get reactivated? Or who is she and what's her purpose? It's a decent tease. The stuff with the Void Rivals characters, it's got a couple characters that go to a Transformers planet called Junkion, which is where Wreck-Gar lives, but they come across a character from G.I. Joe from the Cobra Law universe. So this stuff's all starting to cross over. Look, I'll say that the Void Rivals and Transformers, they're relatively slight. Those are closer to teases. The Mask thing is good. I loved the G.I. Joe thing because what they've done is so cool. Zartan is a character who has been able to be a master of disguise. Well, in this, he uses technology powered by Energon. There, that fits the environment. What's cool about it is he has kidnapped Colonel Hawk, and he is actually like impersonating him and running G.I. Joe right now. That's kind of cool to see that a villain has been manipulating things behind the scenes, like on a level like that. That the Colonel Hawk we've seen for basically the entire run of G.I. Joe has actually been Zartan. It sets up some potential cool story beats. It's not something I've seen them do in G.I. Joe on that level. And it helps define how Zartan's powers work here. It's weird because sometimes Zartan has been like just a guy that puts on makeup and stuff. Sometimes Zartan has literally been able to like shapeshift into other people. And sometimes he's had hologram technology, depending on what stories you've read in the past. This one specifically says he's used masks in the past. Now he's using Energon just to create like a better sort of nanotech mask. But it ruined his body. And if he's exposed to direct sunlight outside of that mask, it hurts him now. So he's ruined his body doing this. But I love the idea of Zartan being the guy that's secretly running G.I. Joe. Oh my God. Yes, Zartan was the president in the second live-action G.I. Joe movie, and that was a decent story, but I like this even more. No, Hawk started as a colonel with both the toy and the comic book back in '82, and he later became a general. He was promoted from colonel to general, 5-6 years into the story. When he was introduced on the cartoon, they hadn't shown the original figure, even though Hawk was part of the original line. They kind of started when Wave 2 was happening of the figures, so they just had Duke as the leader, and then the cartoon introduced Hawk, and by then he was a general. Anyway, I think, look, if you can get a copy of this for free, I do think it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot. Oh, speaking a little bit of he looked just almost exactly like Duke. Duke was very much kind of derivative of Hawk, and that's why there's some confusion. So over the years, they've tried to sort of like retroactively change Hawk to either have brown hair, or in this case, he even has like, he's older, so he's got like some, graying temples. It's okay. But thanks. Kirkman runs the Energon universe, but he also has done this 8-issue run of Skinbreaker with David Finch. I'll tell you, this is David Finch's best work of his career. It really is impressive as hell. The detail is engrossing, but the detail wouldn't work if, the gesture and the structure and the composition didn't support it. Right? Because it would just be a mess of hatching and lines that don't mean anything. It means something because Finch has laid out some really lovely compositions in this. I guess I don't really need to talk too much about the story because, look, this is the last issue. So you've either read it and you loved it, or you haven't read it and you're just kind of curious. I'll say it's definitely worth picking up either the issues, the Treasury editions, which are fun, or you pick it up as a trade paperback. It does have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Quite a bit of character growth, and overall a really positive message about honoring traditions, but using technology to better a society. It's a really positive message, and a way of like, I don't know. There's some really nice elements of politicking, of communicating, it doesn't all devolve into a big fight between the two opposing forces. It is resolved very cleverly through, like, there is some big action, but the storytelling is quite progressive. I was surprising. Anyway, it looks fantastic. That is a big part of what's cool about this. Some beautiful coloring that complements and does not muddy things. I was just showing you Dungeon Crawler Carl, and there was a small figure, and it was kind of hard to see him, in my opinion. But this does not overly render how many colors are on the characters and knows when to like sort of subtract the background. Look, you establish a panel with a pretty good amount of background, and then you can focus a little bit more on like, a character moment here and there. And it isn't necessary by that point. But then again, then you move to the next page, you get another background that establishes it. And that's just me opening to a random page. I've never necessarily been the biggest David Finch guy before. I just haven't read a whole lot of his books for him, but I think that this is incredible work. I really think that the character design is clever, consistent. You actually see characters age in this, which is interesting. Yeah, the color is very impressive. It is, to be clear, Annalisa Leone. Annalisa does several book sets, Skybound, and yeah. You thought it was too boring. I dropped it after issue 2. Yeah. Oh man, that's interesting. I would be interested in, as much as I like the coloring, I too would be very curious to see a black and white edition to really focus on the line art. I thought it was really strong. I don't think this is like my favorite like top 10 book of the year, but do I think it's a good value for what I'm paying? I do think it's a good value. I think it has some really evocative, organic, and alien looking artwork. I think that's really, it captivates my imagination enough. It captivates my imagination plenty. I thought that it was good. I thought it was really good. Maybe I wished some of the characters had another level of depth, like just some sort of outside interest that defined their motivations in the story. But I don't think that any of them were bad characters. I think that they were clearly defined with clear goals. Anyway, I liked it quite a bit. So I do recommend it. In fact, just to be clear, out of the first three things I've read so far, that's my strongest recommendation, to be clear. I'll talk a little bit about this. So Ultimates is almost over. For the penultimate issue, Dennis Camp has done something similar to what he did in a previous Thor story, where more or less every page or 2 pages is either a splash page or a spread with sort of poetic language describing what's happening. And this is a very different version of a huge epic battle among the gods. Nice little tribute to Sal Buscema. A huge battle between the gods against Loki and other evil gods. And the storytelling does reach epic heights. I was really, really impressed with what it did, and I liked the writing, which it's sort of poetic. What Dennis Camp does that's exciting and different is each line has a lot of alliteration. So it's not rhyming pentameter, it's rattling off several words with a similar sound. Okay? Quite special. It stands out as something new and unique, and I thought it felt epic and cool. I really, really enjoyed it. It feels like a story about gods, where they even talk in it about how time-wise, this could be millennia or it could be minutes. It's like, to gods, it doesn't matter. Great question, Mike. Who's the art by? It's a guest artist this month. I just want to get the first name right. Stepan Morrison, which is an artist I'm not overly familiar with. I almost showed you the last page of it. I won't show it to you, but what I'll say is this. In addition to being a fairly new story and stuff, it homages a couple classic Marvel Thor things. It has a very different take, but a lineage to Walt Simonson's run where Surtur, the fire demon, tries to cause Ragnarok. Different motivations in this that go in a very cool way. And look at how gorgeous, though, this panel is with Surtur and Fenris, the wolf that's said to, I think, eat the sun and end the world for the Asgardians. It's got some cool mythology. So, but it references to a degree how Walt Simonson did it, but telling a completely new story. And it ends with this homage to Jack Kirby that goes beyond what Kirby did with Thor and begins to touch. I'm like sort of surprised that they were allowed to get away with it. It touches on some of the stuff he did at DC with his ideas of gods. But it just feels so organic and like that it fits. It's almost like I read this and I go, oh, I bet you Jack Kirby would have loved to tell this story. I really think he would have liked it. It works well as a standalone issue, like most of the Ultimates does, and it just tells a battle of the gods. You know, it's one of the various fields of battle that the team members of the Ultimates kind of have to resolve before they can defeat the Maker. The Maker in this basically gave Loki the throne of Asgard. So now all the gods. This was my favorite 2-page spread. I'll just show this briefly. It looks better in person, I will say that. But this is sort of showing the almost end of the battle where, you know, there are these gods that have like all fallen and are just sort of like festering now, their bodies in the swamps. Because like the battle just continues and continues and no one's there to clean it up or focus on anything else. Just everything is being destroyed. It's a great 2-page spread. Let me swap to this view just so that you can get like a sense. It's a really nice scale. It's a really nice scale to things. It's well balanced. And the lettering sort of helps guide you through what I think that is intended, or vice versa. The art guides the writing. There's something really beautiful and subtle here that I don't know how well it comes here, but the colorist and the artist have put in Fenris, the wolf, like in this reflection. Like it looks on one level like it's just clouds reflecting on this swampy water, but it's Fenris about to, like, you know, eat the star. And just the sadness of seeing these people who had, you know, presumably lives and families and stuff just sort of being abandoned, their bodies just like left in a swamp. It's pretty amazing. I see a few similarities to stuff like that. Yeah, it's not necessarily what you would typically see for just a superhero book. The mighty brought low. What an eloquent way of stating it. What an eloquent way of stating it. You know, when I read the first issue of Ultimates that had the splash pages and was telling the story in Asgard, I was like, this is cool and different. It wasn't like something that excited me as much. For some reason, the second time around, it hit harder. Maybe I'd already been at this point primed to understand some of the storytelling in this, because it is a different way of telling a story when it's all splash pages and double splash pages, montages, and poetry. But it worked for me. It worked for me quite well, and I think it ultimately does show the versatility of a comic book, that you can take time out of, you know, panel to panel action sequences and talking heads and show something a little more epic, like the scale, affecting a whole realm or environment. It's really cool. I don't agree. I think I don't love it all, but I'll say that it depends how much you like Peach, but I like Peach quite a bit. I think her work on Ultimate X-Men was great. I've loved the Marco Cicchetto issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. Fantastic art. Really, really added personality to those characters. Loved how Mary Jane and Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson looked. I loved all those characters. But not all of it is amazing. Depends. I like this issue, though. And now I'm going to say that out of all of these, this is now my top recommend out of what I've just reviewed today. The last one I'll do a little bit of a review for before just some quick recommendations and stuff. Swamp Thing finally gets re-released. Issue 88, originally going to come out in, I believe it was 88. It was either 88 or 89. Famously, this issue was canceled or pulled by DC just before publication, but after most of the art had been done. This had been submitted to the editors, and at first they approved it. They changed it because in this story, Swamp Thing is going through time. There's this weird set of things happening. It was during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. He'd been sort of shoved backwards through time. Some gorgeous artwork by Michael Zulli with help by Vince Locke. And I've seen some of the original pages of the art, but I had never seen it in the context of also having the dialogue. It's a really cool and interesting story. One thing I didn't pick up on by just seeing some of the original art was that this is surreptitiously an origin of sorts for Etrigan the Demon. But anyway, it happens back in the time of Jesus Christ. And it is explicitly, it's got Jesus Christ, it's got Mary Magdalene, it's got Marcus, it's got the three wise men, it's got references to Pontius Pilate, depending on what you know of the New Testament. It takes it very literally, but it has these enchanters call upon a demon to corrupt things and get rid of Jesus. They don't want him. And Swamp Thing is, by and large, a bystander in this, just sort of watching and sort of taking it all in. It is an interesting story. It sincerely is. I like the artwork. I think that it has a real epic scale. I think that the overall message is really positive. It just talks about Jesus and how he just was peaceful in a kind of a violent time. I think so. You're not wrong. Right around the time this came out was also the Martin Scorsese movie, The Last Temptation of Christ, which was both a success and received a certain amount of backlash. And so I think that the story, I think DC was okay with. And I think that what happened, it is, and by the way, I think it was colored in the modern day by, I want to say Trish Mulvihill. I'm so sorry that I got that wrong at first. Trish Mulvihill. Mostly flat colors, as was the style at the time. I think that they are doing a few color holds on Swamp Thing himself, where normally these dark green bits may have been colored in black. I don't know for sure. So I believe that this coloring was done modern era, but with a thoughtfulness to presenting it. Just to be clear, not just in flat colors. This is printed on very similar type of newsprint. It's a nice newsprint. It's fairly thick, but it's not glossy, and it holds the colors as they were done back then. I'll be honest, I think this looks fantastic. Color-wise, I think that this looks so good. It does not clutter up the artwork. I think it makes it very readable. I think that there is definitely something to be said for slightly more of a flat style of colors in comics. I think it really helps the readability. That unless you really think it through carefully, too many gradients or renderings can muddy up the artwork. Because if you look at this, that's pretty readable, no matter, right? And that's a pretty complex page with a bunch of action and a bunch of panels. But if I pivot and show you Dungeon Crawler Carl, a random page, at first some of these colors pop, right? But then if you look at this, can you read this whole cat very well? Can you see very clearly this character? I feel like it's a little muddied compared to how clear the bodies and shapes are in this. If we, and that's just me going to a random page, these sort of shadows probably look a little bit better, to be fair, on the screen. But a panel like this or some of this, the colors kind of are muddying up the art compared to, and I don't even think this is an example of the best page. I think it's just showing you that it's still clear. There's a lot going on in this page, but I think you can very quickly lock onto the faces, lock onto the main action of a page. No problem at all. And that's a pretty complex page with a lot of line art on it, but I think you still lock onto the faces and stuff very quickly. So yeah, it tells the story of Jesus. I think that they intentionally do color him to not be completely white. Mary Magdalene is explicitly, not a white person. So there's some thought given there that I bet back in, if this was printed in 88, I bet you anything this would be more of a peach color. But I think that they gave some thought to that. I think what happened here, in addition to there being pushback on things like Last Temptation of Christ, I think that this story would have flown. But then when writer Rick Veitch proposed this cover idea to DC, I think that's when they balked. It shows Swamp Thing as the cross that Jesus would have been, put on, and then Jesus and the other two thieves are in the background. And I think that was just too intense for them. And you look at it, and that's a pretty intense cover. It really is. I think that that's specifically what they saw, and then they went like, oh, wait a minute, if that's on the cover of what we were putting out, I don't know. I think that that's what scared them. Yeah, I don't think that the story itself presents religion in any sort of a really bad way. It's not shitting on it, and it's not really endorsing it per se. It's just saying it's more of an interesting idea of what if Swamp Thing was rolled into history. He met King Arthur in the previous issue. And there's other interesting things, like Swamp Thing is going through time, right? And he can basically choose where he's going to pull out and get into physical form. And he sees at the same time period, he sees what's happening with the Aztecs, what's happening with the Druids in Ireland, what's happening in India, etc. So it's very interesting to go, oh yeah, that's an interesting context to just go, hey, we hear about this one story, but what else was happening back then? I think that this would have not incited all that much controversy unless they'd used that cover. I think that cover would have been very easy to take out of context. You'll notice when there are news articles or when there are, parent groups that are offended by a comic, it's so easy to just take a panel out of context and, present your argument. And the human mind will just listen to one thing and see one thing, and we make that connection. But that's not fair because it's taking a page or a panel out of context. It's very easy to remove that from context in a way that you couldn't present, the print of a novel and try to condemn it in as easily a same way, or even a clip from a film. Sure, you can present it as something you're objecting to, but it doesn't have the same punch, the same immediacy as a single illustration. And you're going look at the violence on this. Well, yeah, but what's the point of it, or what's happening, and who's it aimed at? So anyway, I was really interested to read this, and to be clear, there will be 3 more issues that wrap up what this storyline was of Swamp Thing sort of being thrown through time and ultimately how that's resolved. Now, the rest of these issues won't be illustrated by Michael Zulli. He passed away. I think he was a great artist, really fun. Definitely drew, I should say, one of my favorite Ninja Turtles stories. A really cool look at what if the Ninja Turtles lived back in the Edo period as samurai. And he gave them more snapping turtle beaks. It's a really interesting look. The other things that I picked up this week, I got from my friends, got 4 other free Comic Book Day books and the latest issue of Stray Dogs. What's that? The latest issue of Stray Dogs? Yeah, because Feral and Stray Dogs has combined to the original Stray Dogs characters are now in the world of Feral, but it's a flip book. So you follow a bunch of the Stray Dogs characters for half of the book, and you follow a bunch of the cats from Feral. but they're in the same location. They're at a CDC site where humanity is trying to figure out this sort of super rabies. They're all trapped and being tested on potentially. Really fun crossover. I don't want to give too much away, but what's cool is that these characters, Stray Dog's original premise was these dogs had all been taken in by a new person, and they couldn't, because dogs don't have great short-term memories, they couldn't really remember exactly how they were adopted, and they only had vague memories for the most part of their previous owners. And you've come to find out that it's a murder mystery, and these dogs with imperfect memories are trying to figure out what happened to their owners. Well, they haven't changed. It's not like they can suddenly become different characters. So some of them don't really remember exactly how they were now taken into this CDC shelter. And I was like, oh man, that's interesting. They don't even remember necessarily that they all knew each other or their names perfectly. So that's interesting. It's a great book, folks. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I definitely picked up Decidium because Ram V and Evan Cagle, they signed something like a 6-figure deal with this huge bande dessinée publisher in France. And Image has the rights to print this epic sci-fi book here in America. It's black and white. The art is gorgeous. The story didn't really hook me. It's very big. There's a lot to it. And it might just be by its nature because it's a fairly short preview, to be honest. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's like 12 pages. It's 12 pages of something that's intended to be a really big set of volumes that come out in big, thick volumes. It didn't hook me yet, but it might be the nature. I don't think it was fantastic. Similarly, I always enjoy Conan by Jim Zub, and I think that Titan Comics often gets some fantastic artists. This one I just wasn't super into. It basically contrasts the adventures of Conan in, a barbaric Hyborian age with a World War I soldier. And I go, okay, interesting idea, but it's kind of short. So I didn't feel like it really went anywhere for me that built to something amazing. It's not bad at all. It is a complete story. It's just a short one. It's just short. It's okay. It's okay. Look, I'm certainly happy to get it for free. I only got so many from my friends that went to this. And I understand there's always limits. You know which one I wanted to get, but I didn't, was apparently the new Mind Management / Fort Psycho by Matt Kent. I want to read that. Very different Conan. Something is killing the Conan. Well, I will say the comics giveaway day of Something is Killing the Children was great. It is a good amount of talking between some characters, to be fair. So how much you care about sort of the mythology of this is how much you'll enjoy this. But I think it fleshed out how these monster hunting houses kind of work and where the series is going. And then halfway through, we do get a bunch of more ass-kicking Erica, who we haven't really seen in a while. So I thought that some of that art was very fun. We've had a lot of flashback story recently in the main title, but this is a full issue going into what's going on currently. And yeah, I'm psyched to read Road to Slaughter. I like this book a lot. I've been getting a little burned out by how slowly these flashback issues are coming out, because I'm like, this is interesting material, but I want to keep going with what's happening to the main character in the modern day for her. But this one was good. This one gave me a little bit of world building, a little bit of a glimpse at Erica, and definitely is hinting at what's going to come next for her. And I'm excited to see the book return to the present day and follow the, Erica in the modern day. I need that. Finally, I did pick up Avengers Armageddon, assuming that like this would help me get caught up with whatever's going on. And it was just a bunch of weird nonsense where Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk, has simply taken Doctor Doom's reset technology that was just used in their last event, the one where Doctor Doom takes over the world. He was able to basically, if something went wrong, he'd go back to a save state, with this limited time travel. And now Red Hulk has it. And I'm like, well, that's the same story. I don't give a shit about seeing, the only thing different is, of course, Thunderbolt Ross has different ideas about how the world should be run, but he's got the same sort of technology. It didn't do anything for me. I was like, nope, I don't think I'm necessarily too into it. And then there was some sort of a quick X-Men story where the team just fights a bunch of Hydra agents. Oh, sorry. Wow, that one snuck up on me. So I gotta say, this didn't hook me. Maybe I should have gotten the Spider-Man one. I don't know. I thought I'd ink a little. Last week I had misplaced this. And we can talk about some other things. I know it's been quite a while since I've been able to release a new Comic Tropes episode, and I feel bad about that. I did release briefly the an edited version of one on Omaha the Cat Dancer, but unfortunately YouTube was like, no, we find like the subject matter violates guidelines. I was like, seriously? I feel like I censored that stuff pretty thoroughly, but okay. So since that one got taken down, I just got to get the next one up for everybody. And I have recorded and been editing it. I do work tomorrow, so it won't be done tomorrow, but I should be able to finish editing it on Wednesday. And so sorry that it has taken a minute. You combine work with, all the time it's taken me, time and effort to deal with trying to get repairs and insurance sorted. It's been hard. It's been very hard to keep up with a good schedule. I really want to give you guys more shows. It's been tough. It's been super tough lately. But I am working on it, at least some every single day. So it should be up this week. I should have it up pretty soon. And I appreciate everybody that's been bearing with me while I work on that. Yeah, the algorithm apparently just finds the subject matter just too tough. To be fair, I'm not trying to push everybody towards this, but you can see the uncensored version on my Patreon. So if you were like, I'm dying for some comic tropes, there is a way to see it and get some content, but you have to pay like $2 a month. So sorry. It's the only way I can get it out at all, apparently. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I think people will enjoy the next one. It's about a modern artist. I think that there's a lot to enjoy about looking at an outside the box art style. So we'll see. I'll get that out soon, and I've already got plenty scripted for the next one after that. Working on a lot of stuff for the show. The flood recuperation is going so much slower than I would have ever guessed. But first of all, I just want to say, I think we're pretty much in a good place to be able to afford the repairs, thanks to the support of the community. So many of you have been kind in that regard. I feel pretty good about that we've got the funds to handle it. What's been going slow is just dealing with the first main company that I worked with, as well as insurance. Like, insurance just does not want to like really communicate with the company on my behalf. They just want to cut a check and be done. And the other company is trying to charge me $9,000 more than they told me would be their top limit before I authorized the work. And I'm like, you guys gave it to me in writing, and I'm showing you right here that you said it wouldn't go over this amount. And they're like, yeah, well, this is what it costs. So this is what you owe. And I'm like, no. You said if it went over this amount, you would be able to apply discounts, and you promised that it would not cross XYZ amount. And they're like, no, you got to pay us this. And I'm like, no, I don't. You put it in writing. Like, if you don't like that, I am sorry, but you put it in writing that I owe a certain amount. But so there's a lot of back and forth arguing, and nothing's getting done. And the first company we got a quote for the repairs has just been ghosting me. I can't reach them. So I need to get more quotes, which is fine, but we just have to research who to use. So anyway, it's just been the financial stress piece exactly is lessened, but we haven't repaired it. So I'm living in a house that's like, half the size of what it normally is, with, what we've salvaged all jammed into one place. Oh, I didn't say, but I envisioned something for Supernatural, Dean and Sam Winchester. I don't know for sure, but there's a chance I might get to do a cover for Dynamite. So I was working on something to show them what I might be able to do. We'll see what happens. But it's just fun, too, because I love the characters. I did make a tiny voice cameo. Yes. Thanks for reminding me. Since it wasn't my video, I almost forgot. That was one that Comic Drake and Panels to Pixels have been working on for quite a while. They made a video about a lot of things, to be honest. It's about, distribution. It's a little bit about the history of Image. It's about specifically the year 1996 and all the upheaval the comic industry went through. I basically agree that 96 was a pretty bad year for comics. There were some good comics that came out that year, but overall there were a lot of really bad things that were happening in the industry. And I got to do a small voice role in it. It's a good video. I hope you guys check it out. It's on either Comic Drake or Panels to Pixels. It really feels like they're they're used to scamming insurance companies, and now that they're dealing with me, and I'm just like, this is what you told me, this is what I'll pay. They're just like hitting a brick wall. What else? So I guess that's basically everything with my life and with comic tropes for the most part. I've been too busy to really go out and see anything. I would like to see that new horror movie Hokum if I get a chance. I guess it has Adam Scott, who's frequently very good. He can be, of course, funny on things like Parks and Rec, but he's also he's good in dramatic stuff too, as people are certainly discovering with Severance. Severance is really cool and fun. Anyway, so I'd like to see Hokum. That looks interesting. I hope it's good. Haven't had time though to go out. Somebody had asked earlier, and I'm basically caught up to date on two shows. Not Invincible, The Boys and Daredevil Born Again Season 2. No, I'd be curious to see it, although it sounds very slight, like it doesn't delve too deep into anything. I've never walked out of a movie theater. I've been tempted a couple times. Boy, I was super tempted with Joker 2. I really just stuck with that because I was like, I guess I'll be able to talk about it on the shows. But yeah. I didn't really enjoy Cool World either, which I think I'd like Ralph Bakshi and stuff, but I didn't really like Cool World. I was tempted, but no, I haven't walked out of a movie. I've stopped watching stuff at home. At the shop in Akihabara, where I used to go for Marvel Legends, the only comics they sold were free comic book days. They sold them. Interesting. My friend Dave from West Coast Davengers is currently in Japan. So tempting. He was like, I just got a last minute ticket. I'm going to go to Japan. And I was like, oh my God, I want to go too. But then I was like, nope, doing repairs. Don't spend money on something like that. No. So I didn't let myself go. But I hope he's having a great time. Of course he is. It's Japan. Who knows? Maybe next year. Oh, there is a small chance I could take one trip, though. I don't know 100% if I can make all the logistics work, but there's been one of the people that does panels at San Diego Comic-Con has talked to me about a panel. And if I did the panel, I would get tickets to go to the event. I've actually never gone to San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know if I could afford the flight or hotel is all, but if they can help me, or a friend can help me by putting me up or something, maybe I can make it work, but it would be free tickets to the event. So that's kind of tempting. We'll see. Yeah, I'm just using right now a simple Tombow Fudenosuke. It's just a brush pen, nothing too fancy. Just having fun with doing a little bit of feathering, a little bit of spotting of black areas. It's an easy one to work with. I like it a lot. But there's a few new pens that I want to get. And that was something when Dave was like, oh, I'm going to Japan. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to go to Sakaido and get a bunch of new pens. I want new pens. You can get that stuff online, but you can get it cheaper if you're there. Doesn't quite justify a flight, but you can get art supplies at really good prices in Japan. Oh, cheaper than here. It's so nice. That's not true. Rick was talking to me on the interview when he was saying there should be a TV show about the early days of comic books in the style of Mad Men. Maybe he just knows about Mad Men, but it sounded to me like he was familiar with Mad Men. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Stealth did not look good. I never even bothered with that. To a degree, these pencils are traced. So basically, I will do lots of doodles with my pencil until I get some sort of a layout or structure that I like. And then I will take that sort of blocky, sketchy stuff and light box it onto a nice piece of paper. I personally, this is Paris paper, which I really like working with, but I don't want to always do my loose sketches on this because it's a little expensive. So I tend to do sketches all the time on just loose printer paper and stuff until every once in a while I come across a layout and stuff that I like. And so then I will lightbox just some of the main lines, and then I there's not too much to smudge. So then I start inking. That's not always how I do. Sometimes, there've been even an episode or two where I just, sketch pencil to paper. I found that I have a very hard time concentrating on both answering questions and hosting while drawing on a blank page. I just can't do it. So I usually try to clean it up a little, and I can focus on inking when I do a live stream as compared. But, maybe sometime it's been a while since I've done one where I just sketch. I could always do that too. But I feel like these days inking really interests me because, I don't know, it's a little bit of a forgotten art. Most artists are just inking themselves at this point. Or digitally doing things. So I don't know, it just interests me because it used to be a dedicated job in comics for the longest time. And yeah, it just really isn't anymore, but it fascinates me. And it's a fun part to sort of turn off my brain and do it like that. Make a zine using your drawings. That could be fun. No, but it's I wouldn't be surprised if there's an element of that deep in my brain. It's not, I don't think I draw anything like Sean Phillips, but I am a huge fan, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a small amount of subconscious work somewhere deep in the DNA of it. For this specific one, my idea at the core, and I still don't know if I've nailed it, but the idea was show the character from behind, kind of trying to be stealthy, and have be able to see his face in the reflection on a window, and then not see the reflection of like some sort of big monster that I'll kind of flesh out and put in here. Right now I've just put in a hand, but I'm giving some thought to like maybe turning that into tendrils or tentacles or something like that. I don't know. So it's like you should be able to see that reflection as well, but you can't. So it's supernatural. I don't know. I'm still thinking it through. I haven't finished it all the way. So some of it I probably will at some point be sketching again. But I got the main character. It's a fairly standard pose, but I was happy with the pose. So I was like, yeah, I'll start inking this. And see where it goes. I see plenty of people on social media saying that they're not enjoying this season of The Boys. And they're like, it's not quite like the comics. It's doing this or that. I gotta say, I do like it. So maybe I'm a weirdo for that, but I really like The Boys. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. And there's not much of it left. But yeah, I've been enjoying it for what it is. Oh, so good. So good. Have I tried to emulate Jack Kirby's style of chain smoking 2 packs of Lucky Strikes while you draw? I have not. Brilliant idea. Thank you for the clever suggestion. I really like that. That's so kind of you to give me such a healthy suggestion. I didn't love the comic, at least not story-wise. I felt like it's okay to be mean-spirited with jokes, but I felt like it was never, it was nasty to even average people. Like Billy Butcher really bullies a lot of characters in it in a kind of gross way that I never enjoyed. Yeah, where is Criminal? I'm totally ready for that to be a show already. Where's Criminal? We'll see. I hope it's good. I feel like it has a really strong foundation. Seems like they've cast it well, so I am excited to check out Criminal whenever Amazon finally gets to that. Is there anything else going on that I should talk about? I should probably get going soon and focus on doing a little more editing before I go to work tomorrow. Get you that comic Tropes that much sooner. I hope people like it. I like it, but then sometimes the ones that I like the most just kind of flop. And you're like, yeah, okay, fair enough. On to the next one. It was an interesting set of conversations tonight over the news topics. I always appreciate a week where there have been some more serious things to talk about. For instance, I thought that DC So White was an interesting thing to consider and contemplate, compared to maybe just like a week where I'm just like, this person has been cast in the latest DC movie. can be fun to joke about or something or speculate about, but I do enjoy having deep dive conversations on this. Let's see. When's one of Garth Ennis war comics like Sarah or Battlefield's going to get adapted? I don't know. I noped out of the Boys TV show first episode, second season. First episode. It's hard to remember what happened when. Sorry. Doesn't ring a bell. My bad. Well, anyway, we've talked about the latest comics and the comics news. We talked with Matthew Rosenberg. I personally am very excited to read more of If Destruction Be Our Lot. And I tried some absolutely deplorable jelly beans by Kentucky Fried Chicken, or as they call themselves, KFC now. Just awful. Do not recommend at all. I think that should probably be a good place to wrap it up, but I've really appreciated that you folks are sticking with me so late when we do these extra long shows. It's a lot of fun to do a cool down and just sort of sketch and do sort of an AMA style chat and chill at the end of the show. I got to have some dinner and I'm going to do some editing, and we will have a Comic Tropes episode to you as soon as possible. You guys are the best. Be kind to each other. Take care of yourselves. And, let me know what you're reading. If during my reviews, you're like, hey, how come you're not reading this? Like, maybe there's something that I'm totally missing that a lot of people love. And I rely on recommendations from my friends, from the community, and from the people at the comic book store to see what I should be reading. But I'm going to take off, folks. Keep reading comics. I will see you very soon. Bye.